This time, the topic for the session is that Union Budget 23-24 and personal income tax. We have been keeping a differentiation and trying to give a different flavor to our professional, non-professional audience. This time we are very fortunate to have a guest, C.A Ramyar Balsara. I give introduction to the guest, but let me start with the Quran. Sir, this is the first surah of the Quran. It's a simple dua, which its name in the Quran, it's called Surah Fatiha. I'll read out. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal lazina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Waladhdallin. Ameen. Its translation is as better. I'll try to keep in Hindi, Urdu. शुरू करता हूँ अल्लाह के नाम से जो बे इंतहा मेहरबान रहम फरमाने वाला है। तारीफ अल्लाह ही के लिए जो तमाम कायनात का रब है, निहायत मेहरबान और रहम फरमाने वाला, जो रोज़े जज़ा का मालिक है, रोज़े जज़ा जजमेंट डे। हम तेरी ही इबादत करते हैं और तुझी से मदद मांगते हैं। हमें सीधा रास्ता दिखा, उन लोगों का रास्ता जिन पर तूने इनाम फरमाया, यानी सीधा रास्ता उन लोगों का जिन पर आपने इनाम फरमाया, ना रास्ता उन लोगों का जिन पर आपका गजब हुआ, और ना उन लोगों का जो रास्ते से गुमराह हो गए, जो रास्ते से भटक गए। सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम। So this was the first surah. Let's get to the business. I'll start with this session with the introduction of our speaker, C.A Ramyar Balsara. I am fortunate to know this man. I personally consider him as a philanthropist. I'll tell you why I feel so. I have before that introduction to Ramyar sir, he is ex-L&T. He spent 31 years in L&T, prior to 4 years in another business. He was heading Shared Service Center, L&T Limited. Shared Service Center is an entity which looks after all the finance part of L&T, salary or reimbursement, all the money matters. This is the guy. He had been conducting, apart from his busy schedule, he had been conducting session for most of the L&Ts, all of the L&Ts on finance for non-finance people, and various other topics. Even after his retirement, he's still doing the job. He's still I think he's passionate about the teaching. That's why I find him, he has so energy to still conduct this session. He has conducted more than I think 450 workshop, and I think 27,000 people. He has trained more than 27,000 people. Coming back to the why, considering philanthropist, so busy man. Even for our session, he just said, yes sir, tum karo, I am ready. Even on a Sunday, he could able to join us. A small anecdote I see. Imagine a man who lives in maybe, sir, Palil. You live in Palil, right? Who lives in a Palil, but still come with L&T bus to the L&T. Palil, that 1 square feet area would be costing around 1 lakh now. We used to say 50,000 there. He go to that his shrine, at L&T gate, and you imagine a guy who come by bus, but he give a tip of 100 to many our watchmen. I personally saw that. So he know where to invest. That's why I consider him philanthropist. Sir, coming back to our session, I am really delighted. We are really happy to have you with us. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over this session to you. Please do the honors and enlighten us in this topic of finance, personal income tax, union budget.
Thank you,
Mr. C.A Ramyar Balsara. Yes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you very much, and thank you for sharing the personal anecdotes. Because actually, whatever we get, whatever in life is a whether you call it Allah, whether you call it God, जो भी आप बुलाओ, वो finally उसका है सब, अपना कुछ नहीं है. We are only messengers. And somehow or the other, I feel that this teaching is a God-given gift to me. So right since a very young age, right from the age of say 18 or 20 years old, I have been teaching, and it gives me immense satisfaction. So before getting into the session, some requests from you. Please make it as participative as possible. Don't wait till the end of the session to ask questions. At various times during the presentation, I will be opening the mic open. So at that time, please feel free to ask questions. दूसरी बात ये है कि अगर आप हिंदी में पूछना है आपको आपल्याला मराठीत काय विचारायचं आहे તમને કઈ ગુજરાતીમાં પૂછવું છે તો પણ પૂછી શકો છો. So with this background, though the slides are in English, let's make it absolutely informal, because I personally believe that from every session I have learned something. And today actually Faisal started the ball rolling by teaching me the first surah of the Quran, which of course I had heard before but I had not understood. So thank you, Faisal. So let's get on to the topic. Basically, we are going to be dividing the topic into two parts. One is we are going to be talking about India. भारत के बारे में बात करेंगे. तो some things which are great about India just now. Just a minute. Okay. Some things. So we'll talk about Indian macroeconomic themes, the major budget themes. The fear that people have कि भैया ये बजट में सब इतने बड़े बड़े नंबर है तो हमें कैसे समझ में आएगा. तो मैं वो आई वांट टू ब्रेक ऑल दोज मिथ्स कि भैया बजट में आपने से कहीं ने इंजीनियरिंग किया है, आपने कहीं यू हैव ऑल लर्न डेरिवेटिव्स, ट्रिग्नोमेट्री, व्हिच आर फार मोर डिफिकल्ट थिंग्स इन लाइफ. So what I want you to understand is that this is actually a very, very simple topic. You must be wondering, why do we need to know about India? Because obviously all of us get impacted by what happens in the Indian economic scenario. Then, of course, in the second half of the presentation, we'll talk more about personal income tax. This time, the way the income tax schemes have been put, I think you must be aware, some of you at least might be aware, that there are two options, option A and option B. And the way it is structured, I think all of us by default will have to move to option B. And we will end with what's good and what's not so good in the budget. And you can also, after that, it will be what must I do, which is from the investment point of view, from the managing yourself point of view. Because money, I believe, is not the most important thing in the world, but it is definitely one of the important things. And none of us are fakirs or godmen or anything like that. We are simple people trying to meet our life expectations and trying to make our lives as economically sustainable as possible. So, India के बारे में अगर थोड़ा बात करें तो India is now the fifth largest economy in the world. It is only behind USA, China, Japan, and Germany. And I think in the next 3 years, we will overtake Japan and Germany, even because for the simple reason that we have a large number of young people. It is the third largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity means that how much is your money worth? And we are higher than Germany and Japan in terms of how much our money can buy. It's the fastest growing among the major economies in the world. There is a slide, which is the third slide. COVID, which people had predicted, the world had predicted कि India तो खलास हो जाएगा COVID में, but that has fortunately not happened. Maybe Allah was kind to us, God was kind to us, but considering our population, considering that most of our population is poor, the unhygienic conditions they stay in, I think God has been kind to us, Allah has been kind to us, that we have mercifully not been so much affected by COVID. Of course, this is not to blame. I personally lost my mother-in-law in COVID. So that was a big shock. My wife was in a depression for 6 months after that because she died in very tragic circumstances in COVID. It's the largest population, but it has got what is called as a demographic dividend. Today, youngsters want to enjoy, across the world, youngsters want to enjoy, they want to know development. They don't care about these old issues and what is the past. The other thing is that the world is uncertain about the major economies, that is China, USA, and Europe. We have of course, like the rest of the world's, the major problems are unemployment and inflation. And that is what we should be talking about, but we talk about so many irrelevant things. But unlike the other economies, You know something, if I was talking in America today, one out of six people in the audience would not have paid their electricity bill. They would have had credit card bills outstanding. But we are an economy where people still believe in saving. Generally, the people seem happy with the political leadership. I don't want to get into politics because frankly, I think at the end of the day, all politicians are chores. So I don't want to get into all that. Because of the size of the market, it is least susceptible to recession. Because India में recession होने का chance सबसे कम है. The traditional problem like hostile neighbors, China, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, we are unfortunately surrounded by hostile neighbors on all sides, inequality, and it's a 300 lakh crore. Now, the first thing you need to understand what is a lakh crore, because all the numbers in India, in macro India, is mentioned in the unit lakh crores. So what is a lakh? It is 1 followed by 5 zeros. A crore is 1 followed by 7 zeros. So obviously, a lakh crore is 1 followed by 5 plus 7, that is 12 zeros. So the size of the Indian economy, now the size of the Indian economy is measured in terms of what is called as the GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. It is because you cannot compare so many tons of steel or so much provided by service. So everything is measured in terms of the market price. तो रुपया आना पैसे में तोलना होती है, and the total of this tolna for India, the size of the Indian economy is 300 lakh crores or 300 followed by 12 zeros. तो अगर हिंदी में कहे तो 300 और उसके बाद 12 शून्य. That is the total size of the Indian economy, which if you divide by 83, 84, which is the US dollar, it is across the world, economies are always measured in terms of US dollar. So next year, the economy is expected to be 3.7 million US dollars. You must have heard that we have an ambition in the year after that, that is in 24-25, to be a $5 trillion economy. At this moment, अगर इंडिया में देखे तो अगर रुपीस में देखे तो by that time, say 24-25 or even 25-26, the rupee dollar will be about 90 rupees. So अगर लाख करोड़ में उसकी तुलना करें तो $5 trillion will be equal to 450 lakh crores or 450 followed by 12 zero. So this is about India. Now, one thing we must understand, ladies and gentlemen, that India is not one country. If you look at it in terms of population, the entire population of United States is equal to the population of UP and Bihar. The entire population of Saudi Arabia is consumed in that small state of Jharkhand. और अगर तमिलनाडु देखे तो तमिलनाडु का पॉपुलेशन और अर्जेंटीना का पॉपुलेशन सेम है, या अगर रशिया का पॉपुलेशन देखे तो वेस्ट बंगाल और ओडिशा का पॉपुलेशन मिलकर रशिया का पॉपुलेशन होता है. दूसरी चीज क्या है हिंदुस्तान में, इंडिया में, कि भैया यू हैव ऑल द रिलीजन्स इन द वर्ल्ड, you have all the communities in the world, you have people with various political ideologies, right from एकदम free market to कट्टर communism. केरला और वेस्ट बंगाल में अभी भी, वेस्ट बंगाल में नहीं लेकिन केरल में तो अभी भी कट्टर communism people believe in. So, and by the grace of God, the most intelligent people in the world. अब मैं बहुत ट्रैवल करता हूँ, छोटे से छोटे शहर में भी जाता हूँ. I went to a place called Baldotra, which is about 100 kilometers from Jodhpur. वहां पे भी अगर you go around, why I like to go around, why I like to travel with bus and all that is, you get the feel of the common man. और frankly मुझे जितना सीखने को मिलता है ट्रेन में बस में ट्रैवल करने से, वो और किधर सीखने को नहीं मिलता है. तो that is, it's a great place to learn. If you know, my sincere advice to you is, one of the biggest learnings you get if you behave like a common man. और इसमें कोई गलत नहीं है, कोई छोटा नहीं हो जाता है ये करके. So if you look at the growth that is expected in the next year, India is supposed to have the maximum growth. How is growth measured? Growth is measured in terms of GDP. That means previous year के comparison में आपका GDP कितना ज्यादा होने वाला है. तो across the world, if you see, except for these small countries like Macau, which is dependent and a very, very small country, so you can't measure it in terms of size, and Libya, which was completely destroyed by war, or another small country like Guyana, where I think those of us who know cricket The West Indies team has a lot of players from Guyana. So except for these 3 or 4 countries, which are very, very small, among the major economies, if you see India's growth rate is 6.1, China is 5.2, and if you see Europe, America is only about 1.5%. So India is supposed to be the place to be in, and no chances of recession. If you look at UK or you look at Ireland, UK is expected to, and these are not Indian numbers, these are numbers given by the World Bank. So based on this, our budget, Union Budget of India, what is the budget? The budget we will see in the numbers. It is basically a statement of सरकार को पैसा कहां से मिलने वाला है और वो पैसा कहां खर्चा करने वाली है. Income and expenditure of the government of India. So it is exactly like समझो आपकी तनख्वाह 25,000 है और आपका खर्चा होने वाला है 20,000, तो 5,000 रुपया सेविंग होगा. लेकिन इंडिया में ऐसा नहीं है, because खर्चा is more. We'll come to it. So various objectives, 7 objectives, reaching the last mile. Finally वो गरीब से गरीब आदमी को राशन मिलना चाहिए. Youth power, financial sector reforms, green growth. Because of the dependence on oil, there is an objective that we should try and maximize our environmental thing. Unleashing the potential, especially opposite to youth power, infrastructure and investment, and inclusive development. Inclusive development means ये development का सबको फायदा मिलना चाहिए. So all this put together, there is a word called Amrit Kal, which people are talking about. That is all, it covers these factors: reaching the last mile, youth power, financial sector, green growth, unleashing the potential, infrastructure and investment, and inclusive development. So what are some of the major things? Now, if you look at this graph, it tells you the GDP growth rate. Now, please understand that the GDP growth rate is always in reference to the previous year. So you will see कि भैया 2022 में it is less than what it was in 21-22. But please understand that 21-22 comes from a recession in 2021. So it is very good, because negative 2021 mein, thanks to COVID, our size of our economy, GDP growth rate is measured in terms of GDP, was less in terms of numbers, and it is going up. And from a larger base to have this growth, it is better. And this year also, the GDP growth is expected to be 6.8%. Remember, the larger the growth, the better it is. The other thing you must understand, which I think takes some time to understand, that whenever ये GDP growth का number दिया जाता है, it is excluding inflation, because the GDP growth rate is given as the real growth rate. And expected inflation in India is about 4 to 5%. So when you say GDP growth rate, it is the real growth rate of 6.8%. If you add 5% inflation, 4 to 5% is the general expected inflation in India. Actually, the size of the economy, whenever you look at economic numbers, it will mean that the economy will actually grow by 6.8 plus the inflation, which is not recorded in GDP growth rate. So the number will be about 12%. That is 6.8 plus 5%. फिर से समझाता हूं कि GDP growth is in reference to the last year. So compared to the last year, if the number is large, this is quite good. And what is given to you is real GDP growth, which excludes inflation. Inflation यानी महंगाई. महंगाई means चीज के ऐसे भी भाव बढ़ने वाले हैं, which is not included in this. So if you have to add inflation, which is called the nominal growth rate. The nominal growth rate is real GDP plus inflation. That is expected to be about 12%. So ये slide के बाद आपको questions पूछने दूंगा, लेकिन ये थोड़ा देख लीजिए. The agricultural credit target is 20 lakh crores. The capex, अब capex means capital expenditure, infrastructure, ports, dams, bridges. Government is expected to, for the first time, they are spending 10 lakh crores. Now 10 lakh crores, you see, is a large amount. Capital expenditure on railways. What is this fiscal deficit? Deficit means आपके खर्चे कमाई से कितना ज्यादा है. Means इंडिया का, अगर हम अगले स्लाइड में देखेंगे, अगले नहीं 2-3 स्लाइड के बाद देखेंगे कि इंडिया गवर्नमेंट की टोटल रेवेन्यू कुछ 27-28 लाख करोड़ है और खर्चे 45 लाख करोड़ है. तो So that difference of 17-18 lakh crores is what is called as a deficit. We'll look at it in the slide on the arithmetic. We are interested in green economics, that is to try and reduce the environmental impact. I think if you see the way the climate of the world is changing, अगर आप बंबई में रहते हो तो भी आपको समझ गए होंगे कि भैया जनवरी फरवरी के महीने में भी दिन में कितनी गर्मी होती है. So definitely we are not taking care of Mother Earth the way should we. So that is what is called green hydrogen mission. PM Awas Yojana, yani the amount allocated for rural poor housing, 79,000 crores, 10,000 crores for urban infrastructure work. Personal income tax, the limit has been raised from 5 lakhs to 7 lakhs. I'll talk more about personal income tax. Poor people, almost 1/3 of our population is covered for medical under the PM Suraksha Bima and the PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana. And there is a cash transfer to the farmers who are desperately in need of money. So this was some of the salient features of the budget. You don't need to remember any one of this. You just need to understand the concept in terms of numbers, which I'll talk about in the budget arithmetic. And the fact is that among all the places in the world today, as far as economics is concerned, at least as far as economics is concerned, India seems to be the best place in the world at the moment. कोई किसी को भी कुछ सवाल पूछना है, कोणाला काय विचारायचंय मला, कोईने पण काही पूछવું છે તો પૂછી શકો છો તમે. कुछ आपको अगर कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है तो वो आपका प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, वो मेरा प्रॉब्लम है. मैं जो फैजल ने मेरे पे जो ट्रस्ट इंस्टोर किया है वो उसको मैं पूरी तरह से निभा नहीं रहा हूं. तो बिंदास होके सवाल पूछिए. दूसरी चीज याद रखिए कि ये ऐसा टॉपिक है वहां पे कोई भी स्टूपिड या सिली क्वेश्चन नहीं है. तो बाकी के 25 आदमी क्या सोचेंगे उसके बारे में आप मत सोचिए. आपको कुछ भी इसमें से समझ नहीं आता है, जो भी मैंने आप तक बात कर चुका हूं, तो प्लीज फील फ्री टू आस्क मी क्वेश्चंस. Can I continue? Presentation is okay so far? Okay. Let me continue. So these are some numbers. तो आप देखो कि growth seems resilient. Resilient means growth बढ़ते जा रहा है. And at least as per the figures provided by the government. Yeah, the urban unemployment rate.
Sir, एक question था.
हाँ पूछिए.
Can you go to the back last slide?
पिछला slide, इसके पहले वाला.
जी जी.
हाँ ठीक है.
A general question, silly question. What is significance of these number to common man?
I'll explain to you in the slide on the budget arithmetic. The significance is basically that capital expenditure होगा तो jobs ज़्यादा आएंगे. अगर रेलवे के ऊपर खर्चा होगा तो jobs will be there to the people. Definitely the government is saying we should be less dependent on oil because we still import 80% of our oil. ज़्यादा गरीब आदमी को घर मिलेगा और इनकम टैक्स में तो सब हमारे लिए सबको फायदा है कि तकरीबन 60,000 रुपया महीने तक, यानी 7 lakhs. It is actually not 7 lakhs because even standard deduction is allowed as a deduction. तो 7.5 लाख रुपए तक सालाना 7.5 लाख रुपया यानी 62,000 से 65,000 जितना आपको कोई टैक्स भरने की जरूरत नहीं है. अब 65,000 is a decent number and that quite a few people will start covered under the medical scheme of the government. And farmers, जो हमारा roughly 40-50% of our people, that means if you say about 60 lakh crores of our people are still involved in farming. अपना population इंडिया का अभी भी 140 crores है. तो अगर 40% भी लगे agriculture में तो 60 lakh crore में से at least 1/5 or 1/6 of the farmers will be getting money that they are not in such a poor stage. ठीक है. मेरा एक ही रिक्वेस्ट है कि मैं चैटबॉट नहीं देखता हूं क्योंकि मुझे डिस्टर्ब करते हैं. तो जो भी सवाल आपको पूछना है आप डायरेक्टली मुझे पूछिए.
सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है.
हाँ
ओके. So regarding a tax slab, you said like 7.5 lakhs. So अगर मैं अभी न्यू रिजीम लेता हूँ मैं, ठीक है, तो मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम में ओल्ड रिजीम में स्विच कर सकता हूँ क्या मैं? कोई लिमिट है स्विचिंग करने पे सर?
if you don't have business or profession income you can move as many times as you like.
ओके.
मैं आता हूँ उसमें पर्सनल टैक्सेशन में आता हूँ अगले पार्ट में.
ओके श्योर.
और ये चैटबॉट वगैरह में मैं देख रहा हूँ 4 क्वेश्चन है, तो किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना है तो बिंदास होके पूछिए मुझे, क्योंकि मैं ज्यादा करके चैटबॉट देखता नहीं हूँ क्योंकि थोड़ा डिस्टर्बिंग हो जाता है, फिर ध्यान उधर चले जाता है. तो फैजल मांगता है तो चैटबॉट में आप
हाँ,
देख
मैं
के
कुछ रहा तो मैं आपको बताऊं सर। नहीं, अभी कोई क्वेश्चंस नहीं, दिस वाज
ठीक
जस्ट
है सर,
मैसेजेस।
जस्ट कमेंट्स आर देयर, ठीक है सर, ओके चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं। तो अभी ये स्लाइड में एक चीज थोड़ी बेईमानी की है मेरे हिसाब से, कि नॉर्मली व्हेन यू गिव स्लाइड्स लाइक दिस यू गिव द प्रीवियस ईयर्स फिगर्स, बट देखें तो आपने 2019 और 2023 का फिगर दिया है, तो थोड़ा कंपैरेबल नहीं है, बीच में 20, 21, 22 साल निकल गए। तो हेल्थ के ऊपर 2.1% ऑफ द जीडीपी इज बीइंग स्पेंट and it is compared to 1.9 in 2019, not the previous year. Similarly, in education, it is a little more over the last 4 years. But as far as food grains are concerned, you know, people like us who lived in the days of the famine, जब चाइना वगैरह का वॉर हुआ था, मैं तो बहुत छोटा था, लेकिन शास्त्री जी ने कहा था कि भैया एक मंडे को आप खाना मत खाइए, so that and the, most of the people in the country would follow that. So fortunately we are not at a stage, आजकल तो we are completely self sufficient on food. फिर भी लोगों को ये होता है, मैं ये नहीं मानता कि भाई सब लोग अमीर है, सब लोग को खाना मिलता है, कई लोग को ऐसे रात को भूखे पेट सो जाते हैं, लेकिन फिर भी अगर प्रोडक्शन देखें तो एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्शन, फूड ग्रेन प्रोडक्शन, बिकॉज फाइनली एट द एंड ऑफ द डे गरीब आदमी को क्या चाहिए, पहली जो चीज है उसको पेट भरना है। तो food grain seems to be something where we have done all right. Every year the number of tons of food that we are producing seems to be better. Of course, a lot more could have been done to effectively transfer it to the poor people. So in capex means, capex से मैं क्यों इतना बात करता हूँ, क्योंकि इससे पूरी इकोनॉमी को ग्रोथ हो सकता है। So there is a 33% increase in capital expenditure. There is the highest ever allocation of 2,40,000 lakh crores to the railways. Housing, we talked about 50 additional airports, heliports, and a provision of 35,000 lakh crores for capital investments towards energy transition with the net objective, net zero. That means we are not messing up with the environment too much. So in every budget, the poor get subsidy, the rich gets rebate. ये budget में actually rebate मिला है. Rich people for some reason have been asked to pay less tax. मैं तो ये election से जोड़ता हूँ, क्योंकि these are the people who will actually influence the election. और हम जैसे मध्यम वर्ग के लोगों को क्या टीवी और डिबेट मिलता है, और टीवी में आजकल देखो तो बहुत सारा डिबेट बेवकूफ की तरह होता है, because I think a lot of it becomes political and all that, which doesn't help anybody to discuss it. Purely economic से फिर political हो जाता है। तो मैं तो कोई political बात करता नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे actually politics समझ नहीं आता है। So if you see, when we come to what matters us the most, that is, I have still not moved to personal taxation, but taxation में क्या changes हुआ है कि now there are only 7 lakhs तक there is no tax. बट अगर आपकी इनकम 7 lakhs के ऊपर जाती है तो फिर आपको टैक्स अंडर न्यू स्कीम ऑल्सो 3 लाख से 6 लाख तक 5% देना पड़ेगा, 6 से 9 लाख 10%. You know, it's very simple to understand. Every 3 lakh the rate moves up by 5%. और ये नंबर तो आपको गूगल वगैरह में मिल जाएगा, तो ये नंबर याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है। तो समझो आपकी इनकम 9 लाख रुपए है, तो आप टैक्स कैसे कैलकुलेट करोगे? न्यू स्कीम में 3 से 6 लाख का डिफरेंस है 3 लाख, 3 लाख पे 5% यानी 15,000, 6 से 9 लाख आपकी इनकम है 3 लाख, 3 लाख का 10% यानी 30,000, तो 9 लाख रुपए पर 30 प्लस 15 यानी 45,000. द सैलरीड एंड पेंशनर्स, अभी एक बात आपको, अगर आपके मम्मी डैडी सीनियर सिटीजन है या आप कोई सीनियर सिटीजन को जानते हो, तो ये बात जरूर बताना उनको कि भैया उनको जो सैलरी से जो इनकम आती है, यानी रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो एम्प्लॉयर से पेंशन आता है या प्रोविडेंट फंड से जो पेंशन आता है, उसके ऊपर आपको स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन मिलता है. स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन इज अ डिडक्शन which is exclusively for salaried income. So standard deduction and profession tax. Profession tax, every year we pay 2,500 rupees to the state government. In most of the states of India, especially in Maharashtra, it is 2,500 rupees. 200 rupees gets deducted every month from your salary. 300 rupees in the month of February. So this 2,500 rupees and 50,000 rupees standard deduction will be available. For some reason, the rich people, this I know will not impact anyone in this lecture, but those people who are earlier, who are in the income slab, the maximum income slab of 5 crores and above, they were paying an income tax rate of 42.74%. That has now been reduced to 39%. ये तो मुझे तो ये पॉलिटिकल डिसीजन लगता है, लेकिन अगर किसी को जानते हो जो 5 करोड़ कमा रहा है तो उसके लिए अच्छा है। जो रिटायरमेंट के आसपास लोग हैं उनके लिए एक चीज बहुत अच्छी हो गई है। Even when I retired 3 years ago, I had to pay on my leave encashment, I had to pay tax, which was because my leave encashment was about 5 or 6 lakhs after 35 years of service. So leave encashment pay, the tax exemption was 3 lakhs. That has now been increased to 25 lakhs. गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में ये 5 साल पहले ही हुआ था, तो 25 लाख रुपए तक लीव एनकैशमेंट रिटायरमेंट पे, तो रिटायर्ड आदमी को लीव एनकैशमेंट के ऊपर 3 लाख से ज्यादा भी टैक्स कटेगा नहीं, क्योंकि किसी का भी लीव एनकैशमेंट 25 लाख तक नहीं होगा. एंड इंपॉर्टेंट टू रियलाइज, एंड फॉर दोज ऑफ यू हु आर वर्किंग, दैट बाय डिफॉल्ट the new tax regime is going to be the default regime. I'll explain to you the difference between the new tax regime and the old tax regime. New tax regime में क्या है कि rate of taxation कम है. जैसे कि आपने देखा 3 लाख से 6 लाख सिर्फ 5% है, 6 लाख से 9 लाख ओल्ड टैक्स regime में मैं बाद में कंपेयर करता हूँ, लेकिन टैक्स में आपको पूरा एक कैलकुलेशन देके देता हूँ. लेकिन न्यू टैक्स regime में क्या होगा, आपको डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेंगे. So we'll look at that chart. But before we do that, just look at another thing. Again, if you are taking out insurance policies, what used to happen was that insurance companies were actually camouflaging investment products as insurance products. So if your insurance policy premium not for old policies, but if the policies you are taken from 1st April 2023, जूनी पॉलिसी के ऊपर नहीं, जूनी पॉलिसी में अगर प्रीमियम 5 लाख से ज्यादा है तो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन नई पॉलिसी अगर लोगे और उसका प्रीमियम सालाना 5 लाख से ज्यादा है, एंड दिस इज नॉट वन पॉलिसी, दिस इज इन एग्रीगेट. तो सपोजिंग देयर आर इंश्योरेंस, इंश्योरेंस कंपनी आके आपको कहती है कि हमको 5 साल के लिए 6 लाख 6 लाख 6 लाख करके दो, और 10 साल के बाद आप हर साल आपको 9 लाख 9 लाख 9 लाख. नाउ दिस इज नॉट एन इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट, दिस इज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोडक्ट, और इसके ऊपर जो डिफरेंस है वो टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा. दूसरी चीज है कि भैया द वे द थिंग इज बीइंग स्ट्रक्चर्ड, आई थिंक बाय डिफॉल्ट ऑल ऑफ अस हैव टू मूव टू द न्यू टैक्स रेजिम. आईटीआर का फॉर्म बहुत सिंपल करने वाले हैं, और मजेदार बात क्या है कि न्यू टैक्स रेजिम में ये साल, अगले साल तो नहीं, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट का इंटेंशन है कि वो आपकी रिटर्न जो आपको इतनी तकलीफ करने पड़ती है, कभी कभी क्या होता है सीए से, इनकम टैक्स से सीए से ज्यादा डर लगता है, उसको ये सब डिटेल देना पड़ता है, अगर कोई मिस आउट हो गया पेपर तो आपको फायरिंग देता है. नाउ अंडर द न्यू टैक्स रेजिम, व्हाट द गवर्नमेंट इज सेड दैट दे विल गिव यू द इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फॉर्म, you have to only sign it and give it back, so which will make life very simple, and they cannot say you have filed a wrong return because it is the form given by them only. See what will happen, that they have the information today, thanks to computers, thanks to digitalization, they have the information on all your earnings, so only the deductions were not being allowed. So there is another section, if you are a professional, and I hope there are some people who are self-employed here, if you are a professional and you are showing income from business or property, अब मेरे जैसा रिटायर्ड आदमी, मुझे सैलरी इनकम तो नहीं मिलती है, तो whatever I earn from my lectures or things like that, I show as income from business or profession. The limit was earlier 50 lakh rupees, that has been raised to 75 lakh rupees. Now why is this limit very good? Because under these two sections of the Income Tax Act, मैं आपको सेक्शन नंबर वगैरह देके डराना नहीं चाहता हूँ, लेकिन 75 लाख रुपए तक आप सीधा आधा इनकम आपका कंप्लीटली टैक्स से निकाल सकते हो. यानी समझो आप कहीं प्रोफेशनली काम कर रहे हो और आपकी प्रोफेशनल इनकम समझो 25 लाख रुपए हुई, तो सैलरीड आदमी को तो टैक्स भरना पड़ेगा 25 लाख पे, लेकिन एज अ बिजनेसमैन और अ प्रोफेशनल आई कैन प्रिज्यूम दैट 50% ऑफ दिस इज एक्सपेंस. So I will pay tax if I am earning 25 lakh rupees. I have to pay tax only on 12.5 lakh rupees, because 25 may say 50% is allowed as an expense. You do not have to give any supportings for expenses. So chartered accountant वगैरह को पहले वो क्या, वो expense सब create करना पड़ता था, फर्जी document वगैरह लेने पड़ते थे, conveyance के लिए bill, गाड़ी का पेट्रोल के लिए bill, वो सब system निकल जाएगा. You can easily, and the government is encouraging you, because earlier this is 50 lakhs, now this has been raised to a larger amount of 75 lakhs. बाकी चीज तो इंडिविजुअल्स के लिए नहीं है, बट इफ यू वांट टू स्टार्ट अप और यू आर अ कोऑपरेटिव मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, then the tax rate is only 15%. The date of incorporation for startups has been extended to 31st/3/24. पहले 3-4 साल के लिए टैक्स कुछ होता नहीं है स्टार्टअप वगैरह के लिए. So that date has been extended by 1 year more, and the extension of carry forward losses, if the business changes, it has been extended to 7 years. So what is important for us in this slide, that insurance policy अगर आप नहीं लेंगे, नया इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी लेंगे, तो 5 लाख से ज्यादा एग्रीगेट प्रीमियम जो होगा वो पॉलिसी पूरी टैक्सेबल हो जाएगी. मीन समझो आपने 5 लाख से ज्यादा प्रीमियम दिया एक साल में, तो जब मैच्योर होगी पॉलिसी 5-6 साल के बाद, जो आपको एडिशनल अमाउंट मिलेगा, यानी समझो 6 साल के लिए आपने 6 लाख रुपीस दिया, तो 36 लाख रुपीस दिया, एंड देन आफ्टर से 10 years यू आर गेटिंग बैक 9 लाख रुपीस एवरी ईयर. तो 36 के ऊपर जो भी मिलेगा वो पूरा टैक्सेबल हो गया. यानी समझो पहले 4 साल में आपको 9 लाख मिला, वो टैक्स नहीं रहेगा क्योंकि वो 36 के अंदर है. लेकिन 5वें और 6ठे साल में जो 9 लाख रुपया मिलेगा वो पूरा टैक्सेबल रहेगा. आज की तारीख में क्या है कि इंश्योरेंस पूरा टैक्स एग्जेम्प्ट है, जो भी आपको मैच्योरिटी में मिलता है वो पूरा टैक्स फ्री है. तो विद दिस, बिफोर वी कम टू द क्वेश्चंस, अगेन certain things where some of us who are speculating in the stock market and they were buying products called as market linked debentures, this was being taxed as long term capital gain, so it was being taxed at 10%. Now it will be taxed like normal income. Again, something which will not affect us, but pehle kya hota tha, badi company ke malik, when they were selling their company, they were making capital gains. When they sell the company, they were making capital gains of 300-400 crores. That they were entirely investing in one house and they were not paying capital gains. So that has been linked to 10 crore rupees. So online gambling agar aap karte ho to uske upar TDS lagega. I don't know how this is going to be implemented. Last year they had bought 30% tax on cryptocurrency investment. Now all this is good in theory, but how are you going to implement it? क्योंकि जो ऑनलाइन गैम्बलिंग करता है आजकल टीवी में आप देखो, तो वी आर सच अ हिपोक्रेटिकल सोसाइटी. हम लोग शराब और सिगरेट का भी डोंट अलाउ एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स, बट एवरी सेकंड एड ऑन टीवी इज अ ऑनलाइन गेमिंग एड, एंड आई नो अ लॉट ऑफ यंगस्टर्स हु हैव फॉलन टू इट. तो इससे भैया बच के रखो, क्योंकि ये ऑनलाइन गेमिंग नहीं है, ये ऑनलाइन गैम्बलिंग है. ठीक है? एंड गैम्बलिंग इज नॉट समथिंग वी शुड बी इंडल्जिंग इन. Forget the religious part of it, but I have seen a lot of families getting, and respectable good people, especially some retired people, वो शेयर बाजार में 9 बजे घुस जाते हैं. And share market is good, is a long term investment, not for day to day buying and all that. The only one thing of the budget which I think is bad, and this is especially for seniors like me, fortunately I have convinced both my children, both my boys, to stay in India, because I believe that there is no place in the world like India. But if supposing you have got children abroad, or supposing you plan to go and study abroad, then previously what was the impact, that whenever money was sent from a bank account in India to a bank account abroad, if the money exceeded 7 lakh rupees in a year, then there was 5% TCS. ये बजट में TDS लिखा है, लेकिन ये TCS है actually. Now, what does this mean? This is not a tax. It is not an additional tax. But supposing आपको 10 लाख रुपया भेजना है, तो 3 लाख रुपए के ऊपर ये साल तक the 15,000 rupees was deducted by the bank. That is 10 lakhs minus 7 lakhs, and 15,000 rupees was the tax they collected on your behalf, and they gave you credit. So what people used to do, now we Indians are very smart. Husband wife दोनों 2 अकाउंट खोलते थे, एक बैंक अकाउंट से 6 लाख रुपया करके 24 लाख भेजते थे अब्रॉड, और कोई टैक्स नहीं कटता था क्योंकि 7 लाख की ऊपर की लिमिट थी. Now what they have done is, they have said irrespective of the amount starts from zero. So supposing you are going for a foreign trip and you pay money which you are going to use abroad, so there will be a flat 20% tax. That means supposing आपको कोई फॉरेन ट्रिप में आप जा रहे हैं, 1 लाख रुपया का टिकट है, 1 लाख रुपए का टूर का कॉस्ट है फॉरेन जाने के लिए, that tour operator will deduct 20,000 rupees. You will have to give him 1,20,000 rupees if the tour cost is 1 lakh. and that 20,000 rupees is not additional tax. It is not the tax you have paid, but this 20,000 rupees will be given credit to you against your further tax liability. Problem क्या है कि वो further tax liability आपको return file करने के time पे, या समझो आपके employer ने already tax काटा है, तो इसके लिए फिर आपको return के लिए apply करना पड़ेगा. So this is tax collected at source. Again I am saying, ये additional tax नहीं है, लेकिन ये एक तरीका है for the government to find out whether people are sending money abroad or not. Of course, they have said that if it is for education, they will not consider it. But banks में क्या है, practical बात देखिए, वो बैंक से आप foreign पैसा remit करोगे 1 April के बाद, तो automatically 20% will be deducted. आपको समझो आपके भाई अब्रॉड है या कोई बच्चा आपका अब्रॉड है, वो सीख रहा है, तो आपको 20% ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट इमीडिएटली पड़ेगा, और फिर आपको वो पैसे का टैक्स में क्रेडिट ले सकते हैं आप when you are filing your return, which could be 1 year down the line. Especially if you are thinking of investing abroad, etc., this can be a big negative. So this, I think, is one bad part of the budget, which the impact is not sure. वो मेरे हिसाब से ये 10-20% से 10% कर देंगे, लेकिन ये लिमिट तो 0 से ही रखेंगे, क्योंकि अगर लिमिट रखें आप, तो people will open different bank accounts in different banks and break this limit. So this were some of the features. This has been the main part of India. I'll be happy to take questions on anything that you have not understood so far. What have we covered? We have covered the basic tax provisions, but we'll look more at personal income tax. Important point, new tax regime seems to be favorable. 5 लाख से ज्यादा इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम मत भरो नई पॉलिसी के ऊपर, जूनी पॉलिसी में चलेगी तो, एंड अगर पैसा अब्रॉड भेजना है तो उसके ऊपर 20% टैक्स कटेगा. बाकी तो हम लोग लॉटरी तो करते नहीं है, 10 करोड़ रुपए की तो हाउसिंग प्रॉपर्टी हमारी होने वाली है नहीं, एंड मार्केट लिंक डिबेंचर्स वगैरह में तो हम ट्रेडिंग करते नहीं है. तो बिसाइड्स दिस 20% ऑन मनी बीइंग रेमिटेड अब्रॉड, सो इफ यू आर गोइंग फॉर अ फॉरेन ट्रिप, देन if the money is going from, if you are converting that rupees to dollars, it will cost you 20% more. This is not a cost, it is the tax being deducted at advance. लेकिन आपको वो पैसे वापस लेने के लिए आपको इनकम टैक्स का रिफंड भरना पड़ेगा. I'll be happy to take questions.
I have one question, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. So like जब भी fiscal deficit जो word है, जब भी ऊपर नीचे जब भी होता है, तो it makes a headline news. So how it is relatable to armed people like us? So
I'll come to
number
it.
significant है.
Yeah, that is actually my next slide, which is called budget arithmetic. You know, if there is a deficit, you will have to borrow money. So I'll come to it in the next slide, Sajid.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions?
फैसल
तो हिंदी में भी पूछिए, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है मुझे.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Sir, so the foreign trip का भी आपने बताया है. So what about the people who go for Hajj? वो 20% ज्यादा उनको भी पे करना पड़ेगा?
As of now, yes, but I think they will come with an exemption. इस पे बहुत डिबेट हुआ है. मेरे हिसाब से एटलीस्ट 20% से 10% हो जाएगा, लेकिन आप अगर पैसा अब्रॉड लेके जा रहे हो तो आपका कॉस्ट एटलीस्ट 10, और ये कॉस्ट नहीं है, ये आपका टैक्स इन एडवांस कलेक्ट किया जा रहा है. तो अभी गरीब आदमी अगर हज के लिए जाता है तो इसके ऊपर कैसे इम्पैक्ट होगा, वो तो शायद इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न भरता भी नहीं होगा. तो इसके ऊपर शायद कुछ एग्जेम्पशन देंगे, शायद देखेंगे कैसे. इसमें बहुत डिबेट हुआ है पार्लियामेंट में भी, जो भी डिबेट हुआ है, लेकिन दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी बिग नेगेटिव. मुझे जो फैजल आपने सवाल पूछा, वो मेरे मन में इमीडिएटली आया था कि ये सवाल आएगा मुझे. एंड इट इज फ्रॉम 0. यू नो, पहले तो क्या था कि 7 लाख के ऊपर, तो 7 लाख में क्या सबका हो जाता था. अगर सपोजिंग हम लोग 4 जन की फैमिली है, हम लोग अब्रॉड जाएं तो भी क्या होता है कि नॉर्मली 1-2 लाख में हो जाता था सबका. लेकिन ये तो क्या किया है, 0 से इंप्लीमेंट किया है. तो ये देखना पड़ेगा कैसे, what are the exceptions that they are giving. Now supposing you have got children abroad, the tuition fees abroad are so expensive, so it's not fair to penalize as it is. वो बेचारा हाउसिंग लोन, अरे इंटरेस्ट लोन ये लेके, एजुकेशन लोन लेके वो इंटरेस्ट भर रहा है. और हमारे इंडिया में क्या एक बहुत बड़ी तकलीफ है कि गाड़ी का लोन आपको 8% में मिलता है, लेकिन एजुकेशन का लोन 12-13% में मिलता है, which is not fair. Nowhere in the world is it like that. और बैंक को भी ब्लेम नहीं कर सकते हो, लेकिन क्यों, क्या बैंक के पास वो गाड़ी की सिक्योरिटी है, वो बंदा बेचारा जो एजुकेशन के लिए जा रहा है वो क्या, उसकी क्या सिक्योरिटी देगा वो? सो देयर हैज टू बी सम गवर्नमेंट हेल्प इन दिस.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, one question, Sammy here.
Yeah, Sami.
Sir, this TCS, what 20% you are talking about,
Yeah.
can be it compensated with the TDS which is being deducted quarterly, or it has to be filed at the end of the year?
No, it will have to be, if your employer accepts it, employer will not accept it. But agar aapki dusri income hai, and supposing you have got some income where you are today paying advance tax, you can take credit for it instead of paying advance tax.
Okay.
But salary, employer will not take credit for this. You can't tell your employer कि मैंने पैसा abroad भेजा है तो मेरा 20,000 rupees कटा है. But other income, supposing today what we are supposed to do is, if you are not deducting TDS, you are supposed to pay advance tax. Advance tax ये पैसा can be adjusted.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. I am not
आपका नाम
linked
बताइए
with.
सर, आपका इधर
सर, मेरा नाम वसीम है.
या वसीम बताइए.
Sorry, sir. Sir, मैं वसीम बोल रहा हूँ. Sir, I am not linked to this L&T ecosystem. So most of the people will find me as an outsider. The thing is, I am supposed sending my parents to Hajj, and I mean, generally in our families, how it happens is a son will send his parents, or even if the parents may have their own income and accumulated income to fund for their trip. So supposing whatever is the combination, but they are not filing their ITR. So what I'll show it that I am sending my parents on my own expense, and I will quote my PAN while making the payment, and I have sufficient income in my bank to back up with that amount of whatever 5 lakh, 10 lakh. So technically, my parents will be traveling, and I'll be claiming the TCS. Will it be possible?
Yes, it is possible.
Okay, thank you, sir.
ये क्या होता है ना, इवन इन आवर कम्युनिटी, पारसी कम्युनिटी में हम लोग की भी एक जवाबदारी है कि पेरेंट्स को उडवाड़ा भेजने के लिए. हम लोग कल ही उडवाड़ा जाके आए, तो माय पेरेंट्स आर ऑफ कोर्स नो मोर, बट इट्स देयर इन ऑल कम्युनिटीज के भैया मम्मी डैडी को हज के लिए भेजो, या हमारे वहां में भी वी आर सपोज टू सेंड आवर पेरेंट्स टू उडवाड़ा. सो आई डोंट थिंक दिस इज फेयर, बिकॉज फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अंडरस्टैंड that what is this whole law? It is income tax. Now what you are spending is income on which you have already paid tax. आपने जो सेविंग किया है उसके ऊपर तो ऑलरेडी आपने टैक्स भरा है ना. फिर भी ये, so when Nirmala ji was asked this question, she said, where am I giving you additional tax? I am only collecting and gathering information. ये basically क्या है, I think हम लोगों के लिए जो पैसे इतने हम लोग अब्रॉड भेजते नहीं है, जो मस्ती नहीं करते हैं ना हम लोग, इन लोग के लिए there is nothing to worry if the amounts are reasonable. But this is basically to deter people from sending large amounts of money abroad, So it is not a tax. It is basically an information collecting measure, Supposing people are sending 20-30 crores abroad, then obviously they can be questioned that, भैया ये पैसा आपको आया कहाँ से, ये जो हवाला वगैरह करते हैं ना, उनके लिए ये शायद भारी पड़ेगा. हवाला is basically what? You send money abroad. So you give someone money, you transfer some of your money illegally abroad, So banks have been now taken that responsibility कि भैया कुछ भी पैसा अगर 100 रुपए भी abroad भेजेंगे तो उसमें 20 रुपया काटना है. ठीक है, चलिए आगे चलते.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Sir, regarding, for
Akshay.
example, yes, Akshay. Akshay.
Yeah.
So, actually, my my wife is studying abroad,
Okay.
and every year there's a tuition fee we send some. She's on education loan, so every year 15 lakhs is being sent from here via SDFC as a loan. So even that would be applicable under this, right?
Yeah. Now what you have to do is, in the budget document they have said that education would be exempt. तो जहाँ पे वहाँ wherever she is studying ना, that organization, if it gives a certificate saying that this is tuition fee,
Yes.
then if your bank is cooperative enough, because it will depend on the bank, और bank वाला कितना cooperative है, वो bank वाला will use that paper as a backup and not deduct money on this. But normally I have found that banks are not very cooperative when it comes to all this, because tuition fees or actual, abhi tuition fees mein kya hoga? Actual studying fees will be exempt, are supposed to be exempt. But agar aapka hostel fees hai, udhar rehne ka, khane ka kharcha hai, so that doesn't come under this exemption, But वो पूरा बैंक के ऊपर निर्भर होगा. और अगर आप देखेंगे तो बैंक में आजकल वो, the bank would rather be careful than to give you that benefit, But tuition fees are exempt from this, but you'll have to prove that it is tuition fees and purely for education.
Okay.
So, that university abroad, wherever she's studying, will have to break up their remittance and tell them that this is for tuition fees, which will be exempt, and this is for staying, which will not be exempt,
Okay. Fine.
And the bank will have to agree to it. I think HDFC is a proactive bank. They will agree to it. इस पे मेरे हिसाब से अभी भी कुछ अमेंडमेंट आएगा. मेरे को लगता है वो 2-3 लाख करेंगे और 20% से 5% या 10% करेंगे, क्योंकि 20% is too stiff,
Yes. Yeah.
Especially if poor people who are going for Hajj and all that, most of them will not be filing income tax return,
Yes. Correct.
And उसमें वापस a lot of money comes from the Waqf board and all that, So who will pay the tax? Will the Waqf board have to pay tax? You don't know,
Correct.
Right?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So the basic tax, these things, most of it we have covered, but this is a summary. Promote domestic marketing and exports, tax exemption on capital goods and lithium batteries, mobiles, camera lenses to become cheaper, gold, this is usual. Enhanced limit, if you are a professional, 50 lakhs से 75 lakhs हो गया है. Higher TDS limit for cooperatives, new income tax form. Current year का तो form easy नहीं है, लेकिन देखना पड़ेगा. If earlier you were not completing 5 years in an organization, there was TDS whenever you withdrew the EPF. Now my sincere advice to all of you is, अगर नौकरी change करते हो, तो भैया 3 साल तक एटलीस्ट वो EPF withdraw मत करो. अगर नौकरी नहीं मिलती है, तो भी वो 3 साल तक आपको इंटरेस्ट मिलता है PF के ऊपर. एक बार नौकरी मिलती है तो वो PF ट्रांसफर करो, लेकिन PF विड्रॉ मत करो. PF आपको फाइनली जब मेरे जैसे आप बूढ़े आदमी बनोगे 60 साल के, तभी PF आपको निकालना है. नहीं तो if you have not completed 5 years, there was a 20% TDS that has been reduced to 5%. The 54 and 54F is that 10 crores on house, which doesn't apply to us. Number of slabs in the new regime moved from 9 lakh to 45,000. For salaried person, standard deduction has been reduced, has been there in the new scheme. For people above 5 crores, there is a lower tax rate now because of the lower surcharge. And leave encashment, which will be applicable for those who are like me close to retirement. When they retire, that limit has been raised to 25 lakhs. So if your daddy or mummy or someone is close to retirement, please tell him that or her that ये 25 लाख का भी leave encashment का limit हो गया है, तो leave encashment जमा करो, क्योंकि leave encash, क्योंकि salary retirement के बाद पैसे की बहुत जरूरत पड़ती है. So people used to spend, they used to, before going on leave, before retiring, they used to use that 6 months retirement leave instead of encashing it, because saying as it is, इसमें tax भरना पड़ता है. तो अभी ये limit 3 लाख से 25 लाख की है tax free limit के लिए. So what is, R.K. Lakshman used to always comment on the budget, and these are various cartoons which you can see after the presentation, but I just want to take your opinion कि भैया ये जो राइट हैंड साइड बॉटम पे जो एनालिसिस है, और अगर ब्लैक बोर्ड देखो, उसमें देखो आपने कितना उसने पूरा वो जो मराठी में कहते हैं गोंदल करके रखा है. I hope my budget presentation so far is not like this gondal that is there on this blackboard, right? So I am not saying you understand the full thing, but if you have understood 75-80% of what I've been talking so far, I am fairly satisfied. Of course, my objective is, and I will be failing in my duty if I don't explain 100% to you. So I'd like some feedback to you before we finish India. How do you find the session so far? Are you comfortable?
Absolutely comfortable, sir.
Okay. Is there anything you've not understood?
Sir, a question in terms of EL accumulation. लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से अब वो भी कुछ कर्व क्या ना, now there is a limit.
Yeah, see,
आपके वर्क EN/LNT में हम लोग 90 डेज से ज्यादा जमा नहीं कर सकते.
हाँ नहीं, उसमें ऐसा था ना कि 2 साल पहले मैं जब रिटायर हुआ तो गवर्नमेंट ने एक ये डाला था कि भैया दिस लीव एनकैशमेंट, it should, leave encashment is always given on the basic, right?
Yes.
Leave encashment is so many days basics, and there was a proposal that your basic should be at least 50% of your salary. So you can imagine what impact it will have on leave encashment and gratuity. So
Okay.
now L&T has reduced that from, I think, 300 days to how many days is it?
90,
90 days. So I think this was in anticipation of that. वो आया नहीं, लेकिन फिर आपका अगर बेसिक 50% ऑफ सैलरी हो जाएगा तो आप इमेजिन करो कि लीव एनकैशमेंट और ग्रेच्युटी कितना बढ़ जाएगा आपका. तो इसके वजह से सब कॉर्पोरेट्सों ने वो 300 दिन से 90 डेज, L&T में अभी कितना है? 90 डेज है, 120 डेज है?
90 है सर.
90 है अभी. हाँ ठीक है, जो भी 90 डेज है, लेकिन वो एटलीस्ट फिर आप रिटायरमेंट के टाइम पे एनकैश कर सकते हो.
Okay.
Right?
Just for audience, we are giving example because we were both with L&T.
Yeah, no,
You
whatever
can ask with
company
your
you are.
background also. Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Budget arithmetic, people get scared. So I just want to explain in a simple number. And this is probably the slide you need to concentrate a little. We are all, little familiar numbers. इसमें कुछ डरना नहीं है. So what is top in the saffron color? Whatever tax is collected by the government, it is called the tax revenue. Now there is something called a divestment commission or the divestment commission of India or the Indian Financial Corporation. They have a fixed ratio. Okay, whatever the government collects by way of tax, that is through GST and income tax, etc., 35 to 40% has to be given to the states. So the government's next year budget is 33.5 lakh crores, out of which this is like, आप सैलरी कमा रहे हो, लेकिन पहले ही वो सैलरी में से EMI कट जाता है हाउसिंग लोन का. So 10.2 lakh crores has to be given to the states. So what the government is left with is 33.5 minus 10.2. Then you have the non-debt capital receipts. What are the non-debt capital receipts? This is divestment. Last year, the government had divested their stake in LIC and Air India. This is similar next year. I think they are planning for some divestment of stake in BPCL, etc. And the non-tax revenue. What is non-tax revenue? Is the dividends from PSUs, the railways, the interest from states, the economic services provided. आप कभी भी कोई government office में जाते हो, they collect some fees. If you require some documents, they charge you some money. Now all this is the revenue. So if you see that revenue, 33.5 minus 10.2 is 23.3. To this is added the other figures. So the total revenue that the government expects to earn in the next year or to get, पैसा कहाँ से मिलने वाला है? 27.13. पैसा खर्चा कहाँ होने वाला है? Defense, transportation, agriculture, subsidies, education, urban development, ये सब चीज मिला के 21.87 crores. Now, unfortunately, we have got a huge structure in the government. एक minister के सामने 5-6 चमचे लोग घूमते हैं. वो लाल बत्ती 10-15 लाल बत्ती की गाड़ियां होती है. All this costs you and me, taxpayers. So this is government salaries and pensions. Then you have the government, which is 7.5 crores. Then you have the PSUs and autonomous bodies, 1.65 lakh crores. Besides this, you have some states where the government will give money. Supposing किधर बाढ़ आ गई, कुछ natural calamity हो गई, या some special project has to be conducted in some state. So that is 3.25. And because you have to borrow money, you have to pay interest. So the total expenditure is 45 lakh crores. अगर इसको आप देखें, तो you imagine that you are a salaried person. Your salary is 33.5 thousand rupees every month. उसमें से 10,000 रुपया EMI कट जाता है घर का, तो 23,000 रुपया मिला. बाकी समझो आपको कुछ 7,400 रुपया और कोई इनकम है, दूसरा 3,000 रुपया और किधर से आता है. सो आपकी टोटल रेवेन्यू और टोटल इनकम इन द मंथ इज 27,000. आपका खर्चा 45 है. नाउ बिकॉज द खर्चा is more than the inflow, you have to a deficit. A deficit means your expenditure, which is 45, is more than your revenue. So you have a deficit of 17.87 crores. Now, two of you asked me this question that how does this impact you? Now, the way of funding a deficit is that either you have to borrow money. When you borrow money, you will have to pay interest. So assuming if the borrowing is at 7% also, and the other option is you print money. Now in India, for the last 10 to 15 years, we have not been printing money. What we are doing is we are borrowing money. Now the problem is when the government is going to borrow so much money, that is the government is going to borrow nearly 40% of 35-40% of the total expenditure. What will happen is there will be a demand for money. When there is a demand for money, interest rates will rise. And this deficit is expressed as a percentage of the GDP. So if you want to find out what is the GDP of India, they are saying that 5.9% of the GDP is about 18 lakh crores. So if you want to find out the total GDP of India, remember GDP is the market value of goods and services that are produced in a financial year, that is between April to March. What will you have to do? You will see 17.87 into 100 upon 5.9. So that number will come to about 305 lakh crores, which is what I showed you in the first slide. Now, the problem is if you borrow money, interest rates will go up. Interest rates and borrowing money are like onions. अगर पैसे का डिमांड ज्यादा है तो इंटरेस्ट रेट ऊपर जाता है, अगर पैसे की सप्लाई ज्यादा है तो इंटरेस्ट रेट नीचे जाता है. Like onions. Yesterday there was a news item in one of the papers that वो फार्मर को फाइनली 2 रुपया मिला 20 किलो अनियन का या 2000 किलो अनियन का, because the supply of onions was so much. Similarly, if the demand for money, because what will the government do? How does the government borrow money? The government will borrow money through the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India, the various banks, financial institutions. Other part of the saving is the small saving. That is, people like you and I will invest in government schemes. We will invest in public provident fund. We will put money in post office schemes. All that is also part of the government's borrowings. So this borrowing is expected to be 18 lakh crores. You can of course शांति से number बाद में देख सकते हैं. लेकिन always in a developing country like India, the खर्चा is more than the revenue. Now is this good or bad? अब प्रॉब्लम ऐसा है दोस्तों के भैया अगर गवर्नमेंट खर्चा नहीं करेगी तो कौन करने वाला है? अगर गरीब आदमी को राशन देना है, today 60 lakh people are being given ration, 60 crore people are being given ration free. So all this is costing money. So the kharcha is 45 lakh lakh crores is the denominator. आप number भूल जाइए. Remember lakh crore is 1 followed by 12 zeros. So 45 followed by 12 zeros is the kharcha. The kamai is only 27 lakh crores. So the borrowing has to be done of 18 lakh crores. So is this good or bad? It's a question that the number seems dangerous, but the government does not have a choice. If the government doesn't spend all this money on agriculture, social welfare, health, education, if you see defense, transport, वगैरह. So these are the numbers. And one thing very good about this budget is, and this government is, that they are very, very transparent in the numbers. नहीं तो पहले जो 3-4 साल पहले, ये मैं कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का एफिलिएशन नहीं रखता हूं, सो डोंट मिसअंडरस्टैंड मी. ये खुद की ये गवर्नमेंट भी 3-4 साल पहले नंबर में बहुत घोटाला करती थी. They would not project expenditure so much. Then they would say after the budget इतना खर्चा हो गया. So at least this budget seems genuine in terms of numbers. So if you want to look at it in a very simple way, government को पैसा कहाँ से मिलता है? 1 रुपए में 4 पैसा कस्टम से मिलता है, यूनियन एक्साइज ड्यूटी अभी भी पेट्रोल और इंपोर्ट्स में होता है, जीएसटी 17 पैसा, नॉन टैक्स रेवेन्यू 6 पैसा, जो इन डाइवेस्टमेंट है 2%, कॉर्पोरेशन टैक्स, इनकम टैक्स, और सबसे ज्यादा पैसा है बोरोइंग से. और खर्चा कहाँ होता है? खर्चा होता है इंटरेस्ट में, पेंशन्स में, सब्सिडीज, डिफेंस, अदर एक्सपेंडिचर, सेंट्रल स्कीम्स, central sector schemes, state shares of taxes and deductions, and interest payments. So these were the numbers. I mean, you need not know the numbers, but if you remember the numbers 45 and 27, and the main impact for you is कि जितना ज्यादा borrowing करेगी सरकार, उतना interest rate बढ़ेगा, उतना आपका हाउसिंग लोन का इंटरेस्ट बढ़ेगा। तो अगर आपने हाउसिंग लोन लिया है एट अ फ्लोटिंग रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, तो आपका हाउसिंग लोन ज्यादा एक्सपेंसिव होगा, मुझे लगता है, और 50 के 75 पैसा इंटरेस्ट रेट और बढ़ेगा। I just want to give you an example by which you can relate. Supposing you had taken a floating housing loan in January 2021 and it was a 20-year loan. Please understand, banks and all these people are quite smart. They don't increase your EMI because they know you can't afford to pay it, but they increase the number of installments. You will be shocked to hear this, but just because interest rates since January 21 have gone up by 200 plus points, that is 2%, your 20-year housing loan has now become a 33-year housing loan. क्योंकि आपको अगर वो सेम इंस्टॉलमेंट भरना है, ये इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ने से आपको 156 ज्यादा इंस्टॉलमेंट भरना है। 156 ज्यादा इंस्टॉलमेंट मींस आपका जो 20 साल का लोन था अब 33 इयर्स का लोन हो गया, और आपको शायद पता भी नहीं है। So this is how it impacts you. When there is so much kharcha to be done, the money has to be borrowed. If the money has to be borrowed, the interest rates will go up. Interest rates will become more expensive, and especially for salaried people. Remember, अगर आपका interest rate बढ़ने वाला है तो आपका ये नहीं बढ़ेगा, EMI नहीं बढ़ेगा कंपनी से. So this I felt is the most prominent impact on you in terms of what the government is spending and what the government is collecting by way of revenue. Any questions?
Sir, this is Abdul Razak. I
Yeah.
work in Hyderabad with
Yeah.
an MNC.
Yeah.
And I'm also interested in economics very much. The way you presented, thank you very much. Very nice figures. Are we not moving towards a behavioral pattern of Italy? The collapse of Italy?
We are moving to a debt trap. But unfortunate part is that what can anyone do? Because अगर आप सब्सिडीज आज बंद करोगे तो देश में रायट हो जाएगी। अभी मैं जो रिक्शा में जाता हूँ, फैजल भाई ने बताया कि मैं रिक्शा में जाता हूँ, बस में जाता हूँ, वो रिक्शा वाला जो 12 घंटा काम करता था आज वो 6 घंटा काम करता है। वो बोलता है मुझे घर पे तो राशन मिल रहा है सर।
देखिए, क्वेश्चन दो तरह से, एक तो हम टैक्स कलेक्शन जो लेते हैं लोगों से, और एक इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, डायरेक्ट टैक्स. There are other taxes we don't not even bother to collect, जहाँ पे चोरी होती है और उसका अवेयरनेस नहीं है. उसके लिए कोई सजेशंस हम गवर्नमेंट्स को देते हैं या नहीं?
देते हैं सर, हम लोग तो थक गए बोल बोल के. यू नो, दिस इज आई एम वेरी हैप्पी विद द इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कशन वी आर हैविंग. नॉर्मली ये डिस्कशन नहीं होता है, लेकिन एक मोटा नंबर है इंडिया में. आवर टैक्स टू जीडीपी रेशियो is only 10%. I am not saying you be like USA where it is 25%, or Japan where people think it is the sin to avoid tax. It is not only a crime, but it is also a sin against God. It is 30%. But India में अभी भी 10% है. अगर आप GST की बात करो तो अभी आदमी है मेरे घर के आसपास है, won't name the grocer, वो क्या करता है, हर एक दिन आप जाओ ना, वो जीएसटी का एक अलग कंपनी का, आपको एक मंडे को उसकी एक कंपनी रहती है, ट्यूसडे को एक कंपनी रहती है, वेडनेसडे की एक कंपनी रहती है. वो हिसाब से वो इंश्योर करता है कि उसका टर्नओवर अलग अलग 6 कंपनी में 20 लाख से कम है. अब ऐसे लोग चोरी करते हैं तो आप क्या कर सकते हो? हमारे इंडियंस, यू नो, वी आर नॉट अ टैक्स कंप्लायंट नेशन, सम ऑफ द अदर. और मैंने ये गरीब आदमी में नहीं देखा है, अमीर आदमी में ज्यादा देखा है.
नहीं, आपकी बात बहुत सही है, पर जर्मनी में अगर आपकी कलेक्टिव कंपनीज हैं, आप कंपनी मल्टी कंपनीज में डायरेक्टर है, तो आपको डिक्लेयर करना है इसका रेवेन्यू आप कलेक्टिव डिपॉजिट क्यों नहीं कर रहे. इंडिया में ये चीज नहीं है. हम ये टैक्स रिजीम्स को कॉपी पेस्ट करते हैं पर उसको एडवांस नहीं करते.
नहीं सर. और दूसरी बात रजाक भाई कि ये, यू नो, वी टॉक अबाउट जीएसटी. You know, we have the highest GST rates in the world, but do you know one thing, that we have two high rates of 18% and 28%. Now this is supposed to be on luxury goods and 28% is to be on sin goods. You know that 72% of the items we consumed are covered by 18% and 28%. How many of us realize this? Now 72, in no economy in the world can 72% of the items considered as luxury items. और दूसरी बात क्या है, मैं आपको बाद में एग्जांपल देने वाला था लेकिन आज ही देता हूं. अब मुकेश अंबानी कोई बिस्किट की पैकेट खरीदता है अपने बच्चों, अपने ग्रैंडसन के लिए. मेरे घर पे एक काम वाली बाई आती है, She does the cooking and the bartans and all that. She is a widow. She has young children who are 10 years and 8 years old. She lost her husband to alcoholism. We, of course, take care of the children's education. But she pays the same amount of GST that Mukesh Ambani pays when she buys that packet of biscuits.
Ji.
So this is not fair. We have to find some, we can't cut copy paste, as you said, Abdul.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very
Thank you.
nice question. I have learned from you, Abdul. Thank you very much. Please stay in touch with me after the lecture.
Sure, sir. Sure. Definitely. Thank you very
Physical
much.
lecture होता तो मैं आपको थोड़ा प्राइस देता था अभी.
Hi, sir. This is Abdul. In your presentation, you said the borrowing is from the domestic. Then where does that borrowing comes into picture from the World Bank and also the relief from IMF, something like that?
Relief तो यार आजकल हमको कोई देता नहीं है. Borrowing जो world, I'm not saying all the borrowing is from India, but we are a little hesitant about foreign borrowing क्योंकि उसमें क्या होता है फिर डॉलर में पैसा वापस देना पड़ता है. So we are a little scared about this rupee dollar exchange, so that is why I would say 70 to 80% of the borrowing is local.
Okay.
And the advantage
but still
is
we are
one
borrowing
big
from World Bank, correct?
Not much. About 10 to 15% of this is coming from World Bank. Because problem क्या है ना कि if you are see, one advantage about this is if you are borrowing in your local currency, you can always go back to printing notes. What America is doing.
Correct.
America has a much bigger deficit than us. Probably the deficit is equal to our total expenditure. But the advantage, what they can do is because the world needs US dollars. So they can keep on printing US dollars as much as they like. And advantage is US dollars में interest नहीं देना पड़ता है printing में. लेकिन हमारे इंडिया में problem क्या है कि आप ज़्यादा money print करोगे तो inflation create होगा.
Yes.
So that is why we don't have extra. So what is this new notes you see? This new notes is just the currency that is replacing the old currency.
Yes.
Right?
And
okay.
One more question, sir. In the new regime, there was some relief for 50,000.
I'll come to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just see the last slide on India. So these are the things we have to be worried about. Is COVID over? As the first Abdul said, that implementation on the ground, because the Shah Rukh Khan of economists was a gentleman called John Maynard Keynes. He said, ye sab long run, theek hai, but in the long run, don't forget we are all dead. So the short run is important, not only the long run. भैया आज से 30 साल पहले बाद में क्या होने वाला है मैं भी नहीं रहूंगा, आप में से भी कुछ लोग नहीं रहोगे, तो 30 साल का क्यों सोचते हो भैया, अगले 5 साल का सोचो ना यार. Recession fears across the world. Russia versus Ukraine is becoming a world problem. And now Russia is talking about attacking Poland and all that. It has become a stalemate. China also has had this expansionist, to solve their own problems. They try to fool around with Taiwan, etc. Drying up of international liquidity. Paisa aana kam ho gaya hai. Energy prices. In economics, there are various, this is called the alphabet soup of economics. The shape of the economy. If your economy has a sudden going up, like we did after COVID, when that graph went up from minus 7.7 to 9%, it is called a V-shaped economy. But then it is often suspect that a V के बाद वापस नीचे जाएगा, so you'll become like a W. और इंडिया में आजकल क्या हुआ है कि certain sectors are doing very well, whereas certain sectors are not doing at all well. So we have a K-shaped economy. For example, आप एयरपोर्ट में चले जाओ, रेलवे स्टेशन में चले जाओ, 3-3, 4-4 दिन तक टिकट नहीं मिलती है. So airline sector, people are traveling with a vengeance. और लोगों को ये हो गया है कि भैया कोविड में ऐसे भी मरना है तो मजा करके मरो, जो लाइफ में कभी नहीं किया वो करना है. तो के शेप्ड इकोनॉमी हो रहा है. Will people spend or go back to the new normal? People are getting used to free food. मैंने 3-4 एग्जाम्पल देखे. मैंने जो घर में अपनी काम वाली बाई आती है, वो हमारे बिल्डिंग में 3 नौकरी करती थी, 12 घंटा काम करती थी, आज 6 घंटा काम करती है. वो जो रिक्शा वाला है वो शाम को 4 बजे ही गाड़ी निकालता है. वो बोलता है साहब 4 बजे से 8 बजे तक धंधा हो जाता है, बस है हमारे लिए, खाना तो मिल रहा है हमको गवर्नमेंट की मेहरबानी से. अब जब वो खाना बंद होगा तब फिर से वो 12 घंटे की नौकरी करेगा क्या? Political and social polarization, and is India being targeted? These are questions which I don't have an answer, and I don't want to give an answer also. If depends on which side of the political divide you are. This is questions that you have asked. And some of the other, this privatization of public listed companies is a very problematic thing. Agar LIC ka aapne example dekha, so and even Air India, I think it has not really been a success story. And the last point I want to say, because I'm sure there would be questions on this. This is the point I thought about today morning. When yesterday I was thinking about it. Yesterday coming back from Udwada, it took us 6 hours, which makes you wonder what development and all that. We went in 2.5 hours, but we got stuck coming back to Bombay. So the last 50 kilometers took about 4 hours. So, it is better to walk sometimes, you feel. But, this Adani thing that has happened, if those of us who have been following economics for a long time, like 2008, there was a company called Enron. और Enron में भी यही हुआ था. I am not saying Adani ने घोटाला किया है. I frankly don't know and I don't care. But like most things in the world, the truth will always be somewhere in between. So is Adani going to be India's Enron moment? Because अगर आप देखो, so it is not only Adani who is impacted by all this. अगर accounting में घोटाला किया है, अगर पैसा गलत तरीके से रेस किया है, but the funny part is that why are we so quiet about it? Whatever it can be, I am not saying he's done it, but दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी आप जितना जल्दी कर दो उतना अच्छा है ना. ये चिल्ला के ये करके टीवी में डिबेट करके, I doubt whether anyone knows what the truth is, except probably Mr. Adani himself and a few people close to him. But unless it is settled, and the sooner it is settled, the better. क्योंकि ये तो क्या हर दिन अपना नाम खराब हो रहा है, इंडिया का नाम खराब हो रहा है. So those are my views. You need not agree with them. I am not saying that, but जितना आप whenever there is a problem, अगर problem होता है तो भैया उसको जल्दी tackle, or at least show that you are tackling it. इसमें क्या होता है कि भैया अगर आप शांति से बैठे रहोगे, it is like you have got a boil on your foot, and if you don't treat it, it will keep on this thing. आपको या तो उसकी सर्जरी करना है या तो उसको बैंडेज लगाना है, कुछ तो करना है. चुप नहीं बैठ सकते हैं आप, वो कुछ on its own solve नहीं होने वाला है. So this is on India. We have spent almost 1.5 hours on India. So I'll take only 1 or 2 questions before I get to the more interesting part of personal taxation.
Sir, quick question. Can you go to the back slide? Deficit wala. Yes. What is the usual path for any developed country? Does revenue goes up? And approx how much percentage expenditure कम होता है?
Except for China, no other country in the world has a deficit, has a surplus, sir. Okay. Even the United States has a large deficit.
अच्छा, तो ये शीट क्या है सर? अच्छा है, बुरा है क्या?
ये मेरे हिसाब से थोड़ा डेंजरस है, क्योंकि 40% आपका पैसा बोरोइंग से आ रहा है. Ideally, I would not like to see more than 20-25 rupees, 20-25 paisa in a rupee from borrowing.
Okay.
सर ये जो सिनेरियो है, इस केस में जैसे श्रीलंका का जो हाल हुआ और पाकिस्तान भी उसी तरह बढ़ रहा है, इंडिया को आप कहाँ देखते हैं? मैं
श्रीलंका और पाकिस्तान से तो बहुत दूर देखता हूँ, लेकिन भैया संभालना पड़ेगा. और गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल्सो अवेयर. दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट रिड्यूसिंग दिस डेफिसिट. They are saying that we'll get back to 4.5% of the GDP by the next 2 years.
But 4.5, that's a big claim.
Yeah, 4.5.
So 34% से 5%.
34 नहीं, वो जो GDP का जो 5.9 है ना,
okay.
उसका 4.5 पे आएंगे.
Okay.
You know what Keynes says is that I am a great believer in Lord Keynes, that as long as the government spends on capital expenditure, and if the government creates infrastructure, ये सब तो ठीक है. लेकिन if the government is spending on revenue expenditure like interest, salaries, subsidies, then it's so you're borrowing capital to pay revenue, then it's a not good thing. If you're borrowing money to incur things like you're building infrastructure, you're building transport, तो अगर आप अगर आप ये कैपिटल आप लोन लेके आपका खाने पीने का खर्चा कर रहे हो तो बराबर नहीं है. लेकिन लोन लेके सपोजिंग घर बना रहे हो तो ठीक है, in a very simple kind of a language, So we have to wait and watch. But unfortunately, this number, it at the best of times, say about 3-4 years back, it was around 15-20 paisa in the rupee. Today it is about 35 paisa in the rupee. I think anything over my subjection, because economics is something which is never right or wrong. My submission is anything over 20-25 is dangerous.
Okay.
Thank you. So coming to India, our Hindu mythology tells us of one Shravan Kumar who carried both his parents across the world. तो हम मिडिल क्लास भी श्रवण कुमार जैसा है कि हमारे एक साइड पे हम सुपर रिच को संभालना पड़ता है हमको, because remember the super rich tax has been reduced and farm loans, poor and BPL people we have to support. तो इंडिया में तो अलग अलग चीज कहा जाता है टैक्स के ऊपर, लेकिन मैं फॉर्चुनेट था that I did a large portion of my chartered accountancy with India's greatest taxation lawyer, a gentleman by the name of Nani Palkhiwala. And Palkhiwala Sahab used to always tell us that, ladies and gentlemen, please remember the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. And he used to say that beyond all the acts in India, there should be one act called the Prevention of Cruelty to Taxpayers Act. क्योंकि हम salaried लोगों के लिए in India, taxation is extremely, extremely, extremely unfair. Why? Because you and I, whenever we are salaried people, we pay tax on whatever we get by whatever name called. That means हमको जो पूरी salary मिलती है, उसके ऊपर हम tax भरते हैं. The next slide, of course, I will give you some of the deductions that you can get from salary. Like you have 5 fingers in your hand, जो पूरा आपका जो fist होता है, your salary is your thumb. वो जो बाकी सब income है वो अलग अलग 4 उंगलियां हैं. Income in the Indian Income Tax Act is divided into 5 forms. Income from house property, समझो आपने घर भाड़े पे दिया है तो जो income उसमें से मिलती है. Interest is probably the most dangerous. There is no head called interest. It is called income from other sources. लेकिन ये मेरे in my opinion, this is the most dangerous section of the Income Tax Act, because see the definition. It says when, in the opinion of the income tax officer, there is reasonable doubt to believe. Now you look at these words are so unfair. Whose opinion? Income tax officer. Reasonable. English mein reasonable is a very unreasonable word. How do you define reasonable? And doubt and belief. So sometimes what happens, I see many cases like that who come to me. You have given a loan to a friend to build his house, and after 5 years that friend gives you back that money. Now that money that you gave him as a loan, you have already paid tax on it. It's from your savings on which you have already paid tax. Just because it is returned and comes back to you, it is coming into your bank account, doesn't mean it is taxable. The same income can't be charged twice to tax. But income tax वाला खुश हो जाता है कि उसके बैंक अकाउंट में पैसा है, चलो टैक्स लगाओ. दूसरी चीज क्या हुआ है, again, that after this face to face जो ये होता है, assessment होता है, the income tax PLR or extra amount, some of you are not in L&T will not understand the concept of PLR. The bonus that you get is dependent on how much money he collects for the government. So obviously he will try to collect more money, and that is his job. Then when you sell an asset, if you sell a house, there is capital gains. If you sell shares, there is capital gains. And income from business or profession. तो ये थोड़ा और डिटेल में देखते हैं. So what are the good things that have happened in this budget? Because it's probably election year next year, none of the difficult decisions which will soon happen, this might not impact you and me, but definitely today there is no taxation on wealth. So there is no estate duty, there is no wealth tax. Even capital gains tax on equity shares is 10%. It is less than the rate of tax. The tenure of capital gains for equity is 10%. Option B, that is the new scheme, has not yet been made compulsory. It will probably be next year. Increase in the basic exemption under new option, yes, it has been made from 5 lakhs to 7 lakhs. Lowering tax rates, yes. Standard deduction, that is 50,000 rupees, is available in the new option. ये तो 5 करोड़ वालों के लिए अच्छा है. No new taxes or shocks. This is something which is my advice to all corporates. A lot of HR speak to me that भैया अपने employees के लिए you have this NPS scheme, because the NPS scheme is the only deduction that is available under the new scheme, and that is the employer and the employee contribute up to 10% of your basic salary. You can contribute to NPS. This is probably the only mechanism available, and the presumptive tax limit है जिसका 50 lakhs था वो 75 lakhs. What is bad? You know, I don't want to go through all this for want of time, but when they did demonetization, there was a talk ke bhaiya income tax ke badle expenditure tax aayega. And one thing we must forget now, I think I have been talking about this for the last 2 years, wherever there has been a new option, कि भैया old option में आपको कोई further benefit मिलने वाला है नहीं. Your housing loan is going to stay at 2 lakhs. Your standard deduction is going to stay at 50,000. Your children's education expense, which is a ridiculous amount of 100 rupees per month or child, it is going to stay at 100 rupees. Under the new scheme is where you will get the benefits. Under the old scheme, you're not going to get any further benefits. I've spoken about GST, that 72% of the items are covered by 18 and 28%. And I've also spoken about linkage of GST with income expenses with the example of the maid who comes to my house. So nothing has happened as far as the old scheme is concerned. So always snatch and eat 1/3 of your child's chocolate and ice cream. Let them cry. Doesn't matter. This will prepare them to pay income tax when they grow up. You can even take the first bite before the child eats. This will teach them to prepare for TDS when they get their salary, right? So this I felt was a new novel way of putting it. But if you go to the computation of tax, I'll quickly go through this because this is what is relevant for us. You have your salary income. On this, you have your perquisites. This is salary income under the old scheme we are talking about. So we'll first talk about the old scheme, and then I'll come to straight away at what level is what scheme advantages. There's not much you can take exempt. Any HRA you pay, you can get an exemption. Any LTA that you spend, you can get an exemption. And any children's education allowance, not much. 100 rupees per month per child is allowed as an exemption. Profession tax and standard deduction you get both under the old and the new scheme. So what is your salary income? Your salary income is very simply one, that is your monthly salary, your annual what you get bonus, PLR वगैरह जो भी मिलता है, उसके ऊपर अगर कंपनी के घर में रह रहे हो या कंपनी ने गाड़ी दी है तो परक्विजिट ऐड होता है. एंड HRA में अगर आप रेंट पे रह रहे हो, if you fulfill the conditions, you can take the HRA as a deduction. You can take the LTA twice in a block of 4 calendar years as a deductions. And children's education allowance, 100 rupees per month per child, not changed in the last 20 years. I challenge anyone to educate the children in 100 rupees per month per child. And profession tax and standard deduction, there is not much you have to do. You don't have to give supportings. To this, you need to add whatever interest income you get, except for PF and PPF. Every other interest is taxable. Dividend income is taxable. Share से कुछ dividend मिलता है तो वो भी taxable है. Business or profession, 50% is exempt up to 75 lakhs. And the housing loan, if you have taken a housing loan, the interest that you pay, remember housing loan, you get the interest and the principal both as a deduction. And supposing you or your wife are both paying taxes, both of you can take this deduction. क्योंकि क्या होगा अगर if you're staying in a city, this 2 lakhs roughly interest rates today are about 8% per annum. So you can take a loan of maximum 25 lakh rupees. 25 lakhs into 8% is 2 lakh rupees. So between the husband and the wife, if both of you are taxpayers, you can take the property, first name yours, second name of the spouse. Both of you can take that deduction of 50 lakh rupees. And both of you can take the loan of 50 lakh rupees and take the deduction. That is your gross total income. That means what have I done? आपका जो सबसे मेजर हेड है, आपका जो अंगूठा है हाथ का, वो मेजर आपका सैलरी इनकम है. उसमें कुछ डिडक्शंस मिलते हैं. You add your interest, dividend, business or profession, any capital gains you have made, all that plus your income. If you're a salaried person, usually you will not have any business or profession because the company will not allow you to do any business or profession. So basically 5 heads of income, you add all that. Individual heads, they have some deductions. And what are the common deductions you can take? 1,50,000 in ATC, that is tuition fees, insurance premium, housing loan principal, and investments like PF, PPF, medical insurance premium, interest on education loan. If you are taking your first house, and if the value of the house is less than 45 lakhs, remember it's not the loan, The house itself has to be less than 45 lakhs. अब बंबई में तो मुश्किल है कुछ मिलना इतने में, लेकिन शायद अपना बोरीवली से आगे या किधर आपको मिल जाएगा. Then you get an additional deduction of 1,50,000, which means the total deduction you will get is 2 lakhs and 1,50,000. This is probably the only condition under which the old scheme will still be valuable, because akele in this deduction of the housing loan, you will get a deduction of 3,50,000. Donations that you give and the savings bank account, because most of you would be not senior citizens. You would be, if you are a senior citizen that is above 60, you can take a deduction of 80 TTB up to 50,000 rupees. That also includes interest on post office, savings bank accounts, etc. If you are a normal person, that means you're less than the age of 60. You can't take 80 TTB, you have to take 80 TTA. That interest is only the savings account interest and only up to 10,000 rupees. So 8 minus 9 is the tax on your total income. I'll repeat this and then take questions, because one of the restriction of time, that is why I have gone through it a little quickly. But basically, I want to break the myth that for computing your income, etc., you need a chartered accountant. आपको क्या करना है? 5 उंगली आपके जमा करना है. सैलरी इनकम है, उसमें हाउसिंग या गाड़ी का परक्विजिट ऐड करना है. सैलरी से कुछ ज्यादा डिडक्शन नहीं मिलता है. HRA, LTA, children's education allowance, profession tax, standard deduction, you don't have to give any proof that your employer will do. That is your salary income. To this, you add your interest income. Except for interest on provident fund and PPF, everything else is taxable. Dividend, आपका business profession चल रहा है तो वो income भी ले सकते हैं, लेकिन 50% exempt ले सकते हैं. And you have got a deduction of the loan that you have taken, the interest part of it on the house property. So you have combined all the 5 heads of income. From this, the main deductions are 1,50,000 for ATC. If you're not spending on your children's tuition fees, if you don't have a life insurance premium, then probably the PF or the PPF investment is good. NPS में additional 50,000 rupees आप invest कर सकते हैं. Medical insurance premium, medical insurance करना बहुत ही जरूरी है. It is not the disease or the accident or the illness that kills. It is very often the costs that are associated with it. If you are in this expensive city of Mumbai, you need 8 to 12 lakhs of medical insurance. Take a family floater policy. More than one person of the family gets sick, you can cover them. If any one of the people in your family are above the age of 60, please include them, in which case the premium will be more, but the deduction also will be more, because the deduction, if you are covering a senior citizen, the deduction is additional 50,000. You can take a loan for housing, and you can also take a loan for an electrical vehicle. The interest is tax is only for an electrical vehicle that includes an electric scooter, क्योंकि गाड़ी वगैरह तो हम 20-25 लाख की नहीं ले सकते हैं, लेकिन स्कूटी के लिए लोन लिया तो इलेक्ट्रिकल स्कूटी होनी चाहिए. Donations that you give, usually if you will go to Ajmer Sharif or you will go to Tirupati, etc., 50% deduction मिलता है. And 80 TTA and 80 TTB, 8 minus 9 is the total income you can get. So साधारण आदमी को क्या deduction मिल सकता है? 2 lakhs under ATC and probably 25,000 under medical insurance. और अगर savings account में 10,000 से ज्यादा है तो 10,000 रुपया, so 2,35,000. So before we calculate which is better, let me take your questions on whether you have understood this computation of income tax and computation of income. We have not yet come to the computation of tax. We have gone systematically. 1 plus 2 minus 3 minus 4 minus 5, add 6, that comes to 6 plus 7, 7D you have to minus, that is the loss, that is 8, and 8 may say you have taken the deductions under section 80, which are available only under the old scheme. So accordingly, we have come to 9. I know I have gone a little fast for want of time, but of course, I'll be happy to share with you after my lecture is over, or if you have any specific 1 or 2 questions, I'll take them right now.
Sir, 80G का कुछ limit है क्या?
10% of your salary at the level of 8.
Sorry, at the level of 8 मतलब?
At 8 में जो है इधर total income का 10% से ज्यादा नहीं दे सकते.
Okay.
और इतना पैसा भी नहीं होगा यार फैजल अपने पास.
Correct, correct. Sir, I'm gonna use this term at the end. Yes.
ठीक है. Now the important question is what is better? क्योंकि ये सब छोड़ दो ये है, and you know there are certain charts I feel very very about. And I worked on the day of 1st February. I was in Surat doing a lecture. My lecture got over by about o'clock in the night. It was a long lecture. And then I came back and I understood the budget, whatever was there. And what is this break-even deductions? This break-even deductions are what is the deduction will take if you want to be in the old scheme. Remember, in the new scheme, there are no deductions. So if you look at the tax amounts, you will see that the new scheme at all levels, there is less tax. So supposing you are earning an income of 10 lakh rupees, if you are in the new scheme, you are saving. In the old scheme, you will pay 1,17,000 of tax. In the new scheme, you will pay 62,400. So you are already saving 54,600 rupees. Now, supposing you still want to continue in the old scheme, then it is beneficial for you in the old scheme only if you can take deductions of 10 lakhs up to 2,62,000. That means what? You will take this 2,62,000 as a minus from 10 lakhs. You will reduce your income to 10 lakhs minus 2,62,000. It will become 7,38,000. At 7,38,000, the tax under the old scheme is 62,400, what it is under the new scheme. But now for getting 2,62,000, remember what deductions are available. You will have your HRA and the housing loan. But if you don't have the housing loan, then, and if you don't have HRA, say you are staying in your own house, then the maximum deductions you can get are 2 lakh under ATC, 5,000 for medical insurance premium. So even if you take those two deductions, you are still better under the new scheme, which you can't reach 2,60,000. Similarly, at 11 lakhs, you will have to take deductions of 287,500, which you cannot get unless you have got a housing loan. Because the housing loan, remember, gives you the interest of 2 lakhs deduction. So any level beyond 10 lakhs, you will need that housing loan deduction. Otherwise, my advice to you is, and I am a person who believes in saving. I'm a very conservative person. I have seen tough days. It is not that, because that is why I always believe कि भैया आदमी को जमीन पे रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि मैंने actually tough days देखे हैं. तो 15 लाख के लेवल पे भी your break even deductions means अगर आपकी इनकम 15 लाख है और आपको ओल्ड स्कीम में तो 273 टैक्स भरना है, न्यू में 1,56,000 ही भरना है. यानी automatically there is a saving of 1,17,000. Now when will you break even? If from 15 lakhs you can take deductions of 3,75,000. That means 15 lakh may say if you minus 3,75,000, you will come to 11,25,000. On 11,25,000, the tax under the old scheme will also be 1,56,000. So my frank advice to all of you is, and I'm going to give you a very different advice than what any government, any taxation person says or anyone. And unfortunately, this chart is not available. I had to work. That day I sat till 4 o'clock in the morning and made this chart. And I was very, very happy when after about 6 or 7 days, I was hearing Pinakin Desai, who is like today's Palkhiwala. He is the tax expert. He came out with exactly the same numbers at the levels of taxation. He mentioned at 10 lakh with surcharge, the break-even point is 2,62,000. And at 15 lakhs, it is 3,75,000. It was one of the most satisfying moments in my life because trust me, this slide took a good from 9 o'clock in the night. It took to about 4 o'clock. I didn't even have dinner that day because I was so engrossed in it. Then at 4 o'clock in the morning, I said, भैया अभी तो रूम सर्विस नहीं आ सकती है, तो फिर सुबह को नाश्ता ही करेंगे. Next day फिर से lecture था. But the point I want to make to you is a little different. What the government is telling you is that भैया ये जो टैक्स का सेविंग होता है 1,17,000, वो आप खर्चा करो. मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि भैया ये जो 1,17,000 का आपका टैक्स सेविंग होता है, वो इन्वेस्ट करो। आपको अगर पीएफ में पीपीएफ में बेनिफिट नहीं मिलता है तो भी आपके रिटायरमेंट के लिए पैसा जमा करो, क्योंकि वी आर नॉट अ फॉरेन स्टेट वेयर मेडिकल एक्सपेंसेस, रिटायरमेंट के बाद एक्सपेंसेस आर टेकन केयर ऑफ. सो आई एम नॉट सेइंग स्पेंड दिस मनी. आई एम नॉट सेइंग लाइक निर्मला सीतारामन जी that we are giving more money to the people to spend. I am saying that this money that you are saving from taxes, please invest it. Even without the tax benefits, you will need those investments. So I am still an advocate for the new scheme. I won't get into the other things, but I'll just tell you what is good. There is no wealth tax, and most of these are repetitive points, but they work as a good summary. And then finally, I'll tell you what you have to do. So no wealth tax, no inheritance tax, no COVID surcharge, pre-filled tax return forms. Now, if you opt for the new scheme, if not next year, at least in the year after that, you won't have this hassle of filing a return, because आपको वो रिटर्न प्री फाइल्ड फॉर्म दे देगा आपकी साइट के ऊपर, आपको आपके
मशीन के
इनकम
ऊपर
टैक्स
रख
की
दिया
जो
मैंने, हाँ?
एरियाज है. Standard deduction is available under both options. The changes, there is no changes in capital gains taxation. There is a transparency in budget numbers, which I have, from becoming a big critic. I used to be a big critic of Nirmala Sitharaman ji. Today, let me confess that I have become a fan for one simple reason, that at least these numbers seem honest. And the conviction with which she speaks on the numbers, you will not be able to speak unless you have that honesty. People say that about me also. See, if you're not yourself convinced, you can't speak honestly about a subject. So they are talking about this deficit. We agreed that it's a dangerous number, but there is a talk that they will bring it down to 4.5%. So what is the number they are talking about? Imagine that India is this is 4.5% of the GDP. So imagine India is a 500 crore economy, 500 lakh crore economy at that time. They are still talking about 25,000 crores, 25 lakh crores. So interest rates don't seem to be coming down. Interest rates will benefit safe people like us, because retired people are the ones who are really stuck in the last 2 years. Inflation was going up at 10%, 12%, but हमको interest में सिर्फ 6% मिल रहा था. आज at least senior citizen को वो 6% के सामने 8% मिल रहा है. Introduction of the digital rupee, this will bring down the tax cut. This will bring down the transactions in cash. GST seems to have stabilized at around 1,40,000 crores. 400 One Bharat trains, capital allocation will benefit L&T. L&T after my family is the most important thing to me. So definitely I will feel happy if there is something. If your parents are senior citizens, please understand that now between the husband and the wife, the limit has been raised to 30 lakhs. So between the husband and the wife, you can invest 60 lakhs. I'll give you a chart on the interest rates. The post office monthly income scheme has been increased from lakhs to 15 lakhs with effect from 1st April. The large post office is computer linked, क्योंकि post office में डर क्या लगता है कि भैया वो लाइन में खड़ा रहना पड़ता है कैश लाने के लिए. अगर वो आपको झंझट नहीं चाहिए, पोस्ट ऑफिस से एक पासबुक मिल जाएगा. बड़ी पोस्ट ऑफिस देती है, लेकिन कंप्यूटर लिंक, तो वो चेकबुक लेके आप अपने बैंक में डाल के वो पैसा कर सकते हो. Comprehensive AIS statement, Mahila Suraksha scheme. This is for ladies up to 2 lakhs. You can invest at 7.5%. What's bad? There is a complicated tax structure. Option A seems to be better for salaried people up to 10 lakhs and option B for those above 15 lakhs. There are no increases. Dividends continue to be taxable. No change in capital gains tax on equity. No additional interest. Cryptos, those of us who want to fool around, the taxation is 30%. Cryptos are gambling. If you are still interested in doing it, God bless you. But remember, it is gambling. Higher interest costs may lead to a most difficult interest situation called stagflation. What is stagflation? Stagflation is a very difficult economic concept to handle. It is high inflation and reduced employment, which means दोनों बाजू से मार पड़ती है आपको. Jobs नहीं है और interest costs बढ़ रहे हैं, यानी खर्चा बढ़ रहे हैं. Deductions from salaries not be increased. I think it is better to forget. And option B might be the only option. I think effectively what this budget has done is, it has in a small, quiet way, without doing too much dhamal. अगर supposing government कहती थी कि भैया option B ही compulsory है. Today what have they done? They have made it the default option, which means if you have to fill up to your employer and tell him no, want to stay in the old scheme, which if you have a housing loan only is matlab say, you will have to tell him, bhaiya mere ko B scheme mein nahi jana hai. So you will have to tell him at the beginning of the financial year, which means before 25th April for salaries. When they call that form B karke karna padta hai L&T mein. I don't know those of you, but you have to tell your employer, you'll have to tell him, no, I want to be in option A, only the old option. That seems valid only you have a housing loan. Otherwise, you can't reach that level of deductions. So what must I? So these are the various rates. This is a chart you can study. It is a chart which I feel quite happy about. I have given you the scheme. The first two schemes are for senior citizens. They give you the rate of interest. They give you the nature of the payment, at what frequency is the interest paid, the minimum, maximum investments. और पहले अगर आप देखें 8 स्कीम में there is no default risk, which means it is absolutely safe. Why is this safe? Because this is what is called, all these first 8 schemes are a scheme which is government guaranteed. So there is something called a sovereign guarantee. So there is no problem, and there is a tax benefit in some of these schemes also. But the tax benefit, remember, will be available only under the old option, which except you have a housing loan, there is no point in continuing. It's time we move to the new option. So what must I do? The new tax scheme seems to be better for us, but continue saving schemes despite this for all family members. And even if you have minor children, you can open a PPF account for them. And if you have a girl child, if you have a princess who's less than 10 years old, you can open a Sukanya Samruddhi scheme for her. Senior citizen schemes for above 60 lakhs. NPS account at additional 50,000. पोस्ट ऑफिस मंथली इनकम स्कीम 15 लाख. ये खाली सीनियर्स के लिए नहीं है, ये सब आप और मैं सब कर सकते हैं. अगर हाउसिंग लोन लेना है, घर में रहना है, तो हाउसिंग लोन लेना पड़ेगा. RBI bonds at 7.535% are still good. When it comes to shares, because understand that inflation is 10%, थोड़ा बहुत पैसा तो शेयर में डालना चाहिए. After 4 or 5 years, or I think after 7-8 years, I have moved software to the 5th category. I think the days for Indian software, the last 25 years has been a great run for Indian software companies. I think Indian software companies are going to find it difficult. So what are the sectors? FMCG, infra, defense, pharmaceutical, electrical vehicles, then probably software. If you're looking at mutual funds, buy large mutual funds. If you're looking at bank deposits, only scheduled banks, avoid cooperative banks. If you're looking at company fixed deposits, please understand that there is a scheme from CRISIL. CRISIL is Credit Rating Investment Society of India Limited. These schemes rate the company deposits, and the triple rating, AAA, AA, and single A is proper. For most of you who are young, I wouldn't recommend annuities. But if you have got parents who are young senior citizens, that means they are in the age of say 60 to 65, then they can get into lifetime annuities. Whenever you get into annuities, the rate for life is ensured. So today that rate is sufficiently high. I think it has crossed 8%, which seems to be a reasonable level. Avoid investment schemes camouflaged as insurance. Avoid debt mutual funds. Cryptocurrencies are gambling. Your some gold exposure, 10 to 15% of your wealth. Remember that when you talk of gold, electronic is always preferable, because in physical gold, there are 2 risks. One risk is that there is a safety risk. मिर्जा गालिब ने बहुत अच्छे 2 पंक्तियां कही है कि जब घर में सोना बहुत होता है तो रात को नींद नहीं आती. And the other thing is, you don't worry about the purity of the gold. So assess and take out. Life insurance, remember, is not investment. It is managing your risk. So don't mix up your insurance and your investment. ULIPs you should get rid of. Family floater policies. If you're in Mumbai, then 12 to 15 lakhs. Outside Mumbai, maybe 8 to 12 lakhs. Become 100% income tax compliance. Please understand that those days where you could open one small bank account, 2-3 lakhs you could put into some deposit in some bank which was not computerized is gone. आजकल पैन नंबर के वजह से सब कुछ पता चलता है. Another thing which I've been talking for the last 3 years, I don't know when it will happen, but believe me, one day it will happen. Your 2000 rupee notes, you'll again have to stand in lines to exchange them. So, if you have 5 to 10 notes, it's okay. But if you have 50 notes, it's not okay. So try to get rid of your 2000 rupee notes. As it is, you don't need them. 2000 रुपए की नोट की आजकल कोई जरूरत नहीं है. If you are an honest person, the only place where you can probably use them is 5-star hotels, etc. और हम तो ज्यादा करके वहां जाते नहीं है. तो 2000 रुपए की नोट जितनी कम हो सके, आइडियली अगर जीरो हो तो अच्छा है. Know how much you need. I have one theory in personal finance that what you need at the age of 60 is 20 years expenses. Try to restrict your spending only to essentials. ऐसे नहीं बोलता हूँ कि भैया कंजूस बनो, मक्खी चूस बनो, लेकिन पैसे को वो जो पैसा खर्चा करते हो ना, तब वो चिमटी आनी चाहिए. And that is the worry. That is why I don't like credit cards, because credit cards में वो चिमटी नहीं आती है. I'm not saying don't use credit cards, but don't get into credit card debt, which is at 18 and 28%. That is when you start economically becoming bankrupt. And most importantly, money is not the most important thing in the world. If you have money but you don't have physical health, you all know what happened to Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. I see a lot of senior L&Tites. They have money, they have the financial health, but then they don't have any friends to talk to, or they don't have any children to talk to. So you must have people to talk to. Then what does the poor man do? He does yoga for 3 hours in the morning because he doesn't know what else to do with his time. And then he says, मैंने आज 3 घंटा सुबह को योगा किया. और एक वो आदमी को आप फोन करो, वो आधे घंटे फोन पे आपको बात करेगा और आपको 10 बार थैंक यू बोलेगा. I'm sure that's not the way we want to lead our lives. Remember, at the end of the day, it's people who are most important. It is people first, then money, then things. These are all things outside the budget, but I couldn't resist the temptation of telling you what have been my life mantras, because I think this is the first time I'm talking to you. So people first, then money, then things, and look after your physical, financial, and your emotional sustainability. Coming back to India, I definitely think, despite all the nonsense, despite all the rubbish that our leaders make us grow, that's the only one place where we are lacking. We have got the best of engineers, we have got the best of accountants, we have got the best of people leading. You have got almost 10 Indians leading. Now you have got an Indian, Sadaji called Banga, leading the World Bank. The problem is that our leaders have let us down, irrespective of what political party they come from. So no force on earth can stop an idol whose time has come. With this, I just want to tell you that I honestly mean this. I am always available for questions, ideas, or discussions. I am leaving you behind with my mobile number and my email ID. Please feel free to call me at any time. Please feel free to write to me at any time. You definitely get a response. If I don't pick up the call, remember I'm lecturing, because fortunately, by the grace of God, God is giving me a lot of opportunities to lecture nowadays. And I have decided to dedicate myself since the last 1 month. I have left the job that I was doing. I said, ठीक है, अगर पैसा थोड़ा कम मिलेगा तो चलेगा. अभी जिंदगी में I am 62. I want to spend the last 8-10 years of my life doing what I like. And this is what I like. So I love your calls. I'll be very happy to answer them. And you are free to take, I will send this presentation to Faisal. And Faisal, you are free to distribute it to anyone. And those of you who get it, you are free to distribute it to your friends, along with my mobile number and the email ID. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take questions, Faisal.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
So one
Thanks a lot, sir.
question.
Yeah, Abdul.
Because also you also said that the latest structure is more motivating you to go for the new regime, and since all the benefit of housing loan etc. is not there in the new regime, and also the health insurance benefit is also not there. So what do you see, like the future people will avoid the home loans, but it's not motivating, like to go for the home loan, etc.
यार जिसको होम लोन लेना है वो तो लेना ही पड़ेगा ना उसको घर बनाने के लिए.
Yes.
I personally think that even when they make the new scheme compulsory, probably next year they will continue with some benefit for the home loan.
Okay.
I still think that because this is not fair, क्योंकि आदमी क्या होम लोन को 1-2 साल लेके नहीं देखता है, होम लोन 20-25 साल देख के देखता है, you know. So they will have to keep some incentive for the home loan scheme. As of today, it is available under the old scheme only, but if they make the new scheme mandatory, they might continue with. So, you know, if you are looking at a house as something to stay, then you do take the home loan. But if you're looking at a house as a second house, as an investment, then I think you should wait, because property prices aren't going to go through the roof. You know, the first house, yes, second house, no.
Sir, yeah,
Okay, sir. Thank
yeah, Murshid, yeah, sir.
Yeah, Mushid.
So, sir, when you mentioned about the taxation in India, and you used extremely 3 times, you mentioned it extremely unfair
Yes.
for the Indians, because we are a salaried person, middle class person paying their tax, and we are not able to get that taxation benefits back again, right? But me working for 12 years in IT industry, right? Some of our friends are now moving to Gulf or some other European countries or US, right? Basically, because what their point of view is, right? They're, even though they're paying 30% of the tax, they are getting those benefits back in a form of education, healthcare, or any form of, right, which you're not getting back in India. Same case goes for the Gulf countries, where you go and you earn and you don't have to pay any tax, and you get the best of the healthcare and the other facilities. So what is the motivation for these professionals, sir, to stay back in India?
I won't give you a jalebi answer defending India. As of now, I think they are absolutely right.
Okay, sir, I got my answer.
As of now, we are not able to fulfill their aspirations and their dreams. Let us be honest. Because I don't want to defend. I know I don't want to give you a jalebi answer that future is both bright, ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai, because I really don't think it is that. I genuinely agree, and I genuinely think that we should do much more. Especially when you see the salaried man paying, you know, there is an income tax stat. I want to show you that because I didn't have time. I didn't show you this. And this stat should give you the truth about everything. Have a look at this slide. I don't know where it's gone. Look at this slide. The 7th or the 8th point. 2.9 crore salaried employees paid an average tax of 95,000 rupees, 95,320. And 2.7 crore businessmen and professionals paid an average tax of only 36,500. I think this gives you the answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay.
So, quick question, Faisal. Can you go back to that break-even point?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't understood this break-even.
See, under the old scheme, you are allowed break-even for the deductions.
Okay.
Now, supposing you are going for the new scheme, there is no deduction available.
Correct.
So let us say your income is 12 lakh rupees. Under the new scheme, you will pay tax of 93,600. ठीक है? इतना समझ में आया?
Yes, yes, sir.
Now, supposing you want to stay with the old scheme, your tax without any deductions at 12 lakhs under the old scheme was 1,79,000.
Correct.
Now, if you want to see whether the old scheme is beneficial and your tax should come to less than 93,600 under the old scheme, what you need is deductions of 3,12,500 from 12 lakhs, which means you need to bring your income down from 12 lakhs by taking deductions of 3,12,500. You need to bring your deductions down, and you need to bring your income down to 8,87,500.
Understood. Understood.
So at 8,87,500 under the old scheme, your taxation will be 93,600.
Okay.
So supposing you are at 13 lakhs and your tax under the old scheme is 2,10,000 and under the new it is 1,14,000. Now, if you want to benefit under the old scheme where deductions are available, you need deductions of more than 3,12,500.
Okay.
So you need to bring your income down to 9,87,500. Then your tax will be 1,14,400 under the old scheme.
Okay, I noticed.
Got it?
Yes,
And
sir.
maximum क्या है 3,75,000 क्योंकि 15 लाख के बाद ये नंबर शिफ्ट नहीं होता है. 15 लाख के बाद जो भी आपका इनकम लेवल है ना 3,75,000 से अब 3,75,000 का आप कब डिडक्शन ले सकोगे जब आपके पास होम लोन है. नहीं तो आप डिडक्शन कहाँ से लोगे क्योंकि आपको जो
प्रिंसिपल भी 1.5 बताना पड़ेगा.
हाँ और उसमें भी 1.5 बताना पड़ेगा और डोनेशंस में क्या है आपको डबल देना पड़ेगा. तो डोनेशंस में अगर करना है तो 3 लाख रुपया डोनेशन देना पड़ेगा.
ओके बट आपने 100% भी लिखा था वहाँ पे डोनेशन.
100% वो गवर्नमेंट स्कीम में है सर.
ओके.
लेकिन नॉर्मली हम क्या करते हैं हम अजमेर शरीफ चले जाते हैं या तिरुपति वगैरह चले जाते हैं तो कुछ डोनेशन करते हैं तो उसमें तो 50% ही मिलता है ना.
यस ट्रू. ओके सर.
And what I'm saying is that why do you want to जबर if you have a house you don't have a choice क्योंकि सैलरीड आदमी को घर सबसे बड़ी चीज है. खुद मम्मी डैडी से घर नहीं मिला है खुद का घर बना है पूरी जिंदगी निकल जाती है उसमें. लेकिन अगर घर नहीं है अगर घर है अपने पास चिंता नहीं है और अपने पास खुद का ये है तो the new scheme is better because why? Because without doing any of these compulsory things you are saving 1,17,000. The only thing I am saying is, how did I get 1,17,000? Because my tax is less. Now 1,17,000 understand means what? 10,000 rupees a month. What I am saying is, don't spend that money. वो पैसे को उड़ाओ मत. वो पैसे को PF PPF में डालो. भले टैक्स बेनिफिट नहीं मिल रहा है नहीं तो कोई गवर्नमेंट स्कीम में डालो. वो सेफ इन्वेस्टमेंट में डालो क्योंकि वही आपको रिटायरमेंट में बचाने वाला है. That is what I am trying to say.
Okay, got it, sir. Thank you for the answer.
Any other questions? There are some slides which I haven't because they are fairly self-explanatory. But as I told you, I'm always ready for discussions. I'm always ready for questions. I'm not able to read the chats, but thank you very much. And Faisal, thank you for organizing this session. I hope it's been useful to you. Thank you very much. God bless you all. May Allah be with you. Thank you very much.
Sir, for us, it was an honor. Your session was extremely informative, insightful, highly useful, at least for me. And I'm sure I am saying this word on behalf of my participant as well. We are very thankful for your time. We wish you very good health, and we wish that we see you often in our session wherever we go.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So we'll take a small PPT of our group, what we are, for you as well as our audience.
Yeah, I am there because I know you wanted 10 minutes after the presentation,
yes.
so I am very much there. So you can take over the control of the presentation.
So can you please run the presentation?
Shall I move out of the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Take back control, I think. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah, Mudassir, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, Faisal.
Yeah, hi Mudassir.
Yeah, so I would be sharing my screen first. I won't take much time, guys. I know we have extended this talk a little. So let me share basics of what we are doing as a PSF group. I hope my screen is visible. PPT is there.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. So apart from doing such sessions for our members, we also can do some social services, basically providing fees to our students belong to the privileged families, underprivileged family from 1st to 10th. So we have been doing a good job from past 3-4 years. We have come up a ladder. We have 2 projects with PSF under our core social services wing. One is Kafalat, which looks after providing education support to the underprivileged families. And then we have Neki Basket, which is also a pilot project created by us, pioneered by us, which helps them to get food at their doorsteps. So Alhamdulillah, a good job done at Jogeshwari every day. There are around 3,500 of packets that have been distributed till now. I'll focus on Kafalat now. So we have various verticals where we do our where our NGO is working. Basically, child education, which is our flagship project. We have been distributing, water to the traffic police during summers. We have been helping in medical aid to some of the needy people. So now and then we are into good, we always come up and take our time from our daily routine and do something that we can go give back to our society. Next, we are maintaining this website with us where we get donations every year. So Alhamdulillah, we have reached 23 lakh donations this year, started from Ramazan last year. So we are targeting to 40 lakhs and our ultimate goal is to reach 1 crore in this vertical, inshallah. Our main area of that we cover is Mumbai itself and surrounding areas. We have not reached outside Mumbai yet, but the plans are set for Pune, Nagpur, possible Delhi as well. So I have shared 2 important URLs with you. One is for PSF as an organization on the chat. So do visit that and you will get the latest updates and whatever sessions we have taken till now. Today's session also would be uploaded there, inshallah. And the other website is our educatechild.in website, where it is our humble request to all the professionals, to Balsara sir as well, that he should share this with among his colleagues, among his friends. Reason being, we are not an NGO who gives fees to the students or to the parents. We always give emphasis to the education. We all regularly check the education, the progress of a student, whether he is improving or not. So in that sense, we have been doing sessions for them, career guidance sessions. We have talked to the parents one-to-one. So this is the way we are improving. We are still working on our procedures. So we want God to help us in this, and professionals like you who can share this knowledge with others and do contribute in case of zakat every year and be our support. And kindly on our website, whenever we get any case, we validate that case. So this is the you can see the number of students that we have helped last year. So we have again reached to 150 students this year, Alhamdulillah. Kindly, so whenever we get any case, we validate that particular case, economical background is checked, then that some story of that particular kid is uploaded on our website so that we be transparent to our donors. So after we get donation from our donors, we regularly update them with the progress of the child, where the check is deposited, how their donation has been given to which student the donation has been given to, so on and so forth. So we are very well connected with the parents, with the students, with the donors, thus helping us to have a 360-degree view to our work. So I would request everybody of you to think about these 2 questions and help us to grow in future. And stay with us, be our volunteer, be our advertising agents. Spread it among your friends, spread it, and do have a time, spend time. You can open it on your mobile also. You can view it, you can pay the payment has also become very easy now. We have QR codes and all. So Jazakallah khair for listening to us, for attending this session. Thanks a lot. Kindly go to these websites and do the needful. Thanks a lot, Balsara sir and
Thank
others.
you very much.
Adding to my colleague, you can get a TG certificate, donation certificate as well for all the donation you are gonna do.
Yes. So at the moment, as Balsara sir said, that if we do a 50,000 rupees ka donation, we get 25,000 direct deduction from the government under ATG. Since we are not government organized NGO, hence we won't be able to get full donation relief. We get half of, and the receipts are sent to your email boxes, and it helps you in your while filling the taxes. Thanks a lot. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Thanks everybody.
Okay, sir. Sir, I am getting a very good messages. Of course, I knew it. Thank you for your time. Sir, please give us a call for any help. We can offer you, we can try to.
Faisal, are you there on Friday in office?
Yes, sir, I would be.
Gate number 1 में आप बैठते हो ना?
जी sir. I'll come, sir.
Okay, तो फ्राइडे को आप मेरे को मिलना, मैं आपको फोन करूंगा. मेरा आई थिंक आई एम नॉट श्योर सुबह को है या दोपहर को है.
Okay.
मैं आपको बताऊंगा, आपको फोन करूंगा मैं, और मुझे मिल लेना. आई वांट टू गिव अ चेक टू योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन.
Okay. Thank you for your kind and generosity, sir.
Yeah,
मेरे ख्याल से ये पहली बार हो रहा है.
And I don't want any income tax receipt or anything. Okay.
Thank you, Balsara sir. God bless you. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much.
शायद हम लोग को स्पीकर को बुला रहे हैं. Instead of paying him, the speaker is. So I was right, sir. हम नहीं दे सकते. अल्लाह ताला आपको बहुत कुछ देगा, बहुत जरूर देगा.
आपने मान लिया, आपने recognition दिया, बस है यार.
Please give us a call for anything we can do. We can offer.
Thank you. But before that, you give me a call on. I will give you a call on Friday. I'm coming to gate number 1, so I have to meet you and give you a check at that time. Okay.
I'll come to you, sir. I'll come to you. Thank you. Sir, I request, one of my member has asked, can we upload this session on YouTube? Are we allowed?
Yeah, we are allowed to do it.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
मैं आपका email पे presentation भेज देता हूँ. You can share it with the members.
I'll do this, sir.
Okay, अभी भेज देता हूँ, क्योंकि अभी वापस 2 बजे दूसरा session है यार.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
once again, sir. Shukriya, Jazakallah. Thank you very much. We pray for your very good health.
Thank you.
I'd like to see you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, friends. Now we close the session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye. Hello.
Bye. Thank you.